It's 6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. We've got a whole lot to cover today. President Joe Biden withdrawing from the 2024 presidential race. Big news over the weekend. We're going to cover why he did. Politico has the inside scoop. How do Colorado Democrats feel about this? They seem to be coalescing very quickly. All statewide elected Democrats and congressional Democrats in the state of Colorado endorsing Kamala Harris within 8 hours of the announcement. Wow. So we'll cover that in the 8 o'clock hour. Ted Trimpa, the principal and CEO of the Trimpa Group, probably Colorado's top Democrat strategist, will be joining us to tell us what he thinks happened, why it happened, and is this going to be tough on Donald Trump? Now Donald Trump's the old man in the race. But if America is a historically racist country, would they elect Kamala Harris? We'll cover that. And then in the 9 o'clock hour, Steve Peck, the chairman of the Douglas County Republican Party, calling for Dave Williams to step down. So a lot of news, a lot of political news to cover, plus all the analysis you need. And phone lines are open. Give us a call. Tell us what you think happened. And is this good for the country? Is it good for the Democrat Party? Or is this good for Donald Trump? And is he now going to easily win this? He thinks so. 303-696-1971. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 57 as the sun comes up in Denver, expecting highs in the mid-80s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
The Supreme Court did it. Trump appointed Supreme Court with the express purpose of doing it.
The secret's out. President Biden is dropping out of the race. And Governor Polis
I think you need to scream that louder. You need to go from the whisper to the scream even more. There's nothing that America can't do.
Oh, my goodness. He's dropping out. I got to wake everybody up right now. Wake up. Can you believe this? Governor Polis called Biden a true partner to Colorado and that he's making the right choice for the future of America. Polis says the U.S. can't afford another potential 4 years of a disastrous Trump presidency.
Kamala, I call her Laughing Kamala. You ever watch her laugh? She's crazy. You know, you can tell a lot by her laugh. No, she's crazy. She's nuts. She's not as crazy as Nancy Pelosi, crazy dancer.
Trump returned to the stage on Saturday, and he was on his game. So all of a sudden, with concerns about Biden's mental fitness, he gives his endorsement to VP Kamala Harris. That tells you all you need to know about his mental fitness. And I could go on and on with that, and I will the rest of the morning. But CNN's favorite leftist, Van Jones, just emotionally crushed.
All of us are going to be in this situation someday, and I hope that we take a moment to honor this man and to love this man. I love Joe Biden. I appreciate what he's done, and a lot of people are heartbroken today. Even if it's the right thing, it's still just horrible. I love Joe Biden. You have people on both sides of the fight in the party who are crying right now, who can't believe it right now. This is not a normal time, y'all. This isn't just politics. This is a moment in time to honor someone who for 50 years put this country first and sacrificed and sacrificed and sacrificed and sacrificed and sacrificed. And today he's sacrificed again.
and he sacrificed our country.
Oh my gosh! You know, Blake,
Man.
the music is amazing overlaid on that, but you can never forget how vicious politics is. While
Yes.
they were all, singing the swan song as he.
Right.
2 hours prior to that, they were talking about how out of touch he is, how he's like this aged lion that just won't leave, and he's
Yes.
going to cause us to lose everything. And then in one single moment, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and what a patriot.
And you know what? It was worse. I have even more. I'm going to play the rest of the morning. I mean, he went on and on and on. The DNC is going to be ridiculous. That is going to be, a circus times 1,000, 10,000. Incredible. Yeah. He sacrificed himself. What he did was sacrifice the country and our borders, 15 to 30 million illegals, right? And then just has tried to destroy our country. He's the puppet, and the puppet masters have been ruling him. And next up is Kamala. So they have some issues in Wisconsin, Nevada, and Georgia. Some hurdles have to be cleared legally before Harris can get on the ballot. Plus, not all Democrats are on board, and independents like RFK Jr. not happy.
The reaction of the DNC to that obvious condition was to hide it from the American public and to use their power over the Democratic Party nomination process to make sure that nobody could compete with President Biden in a way that would expose his deficiencies. And as a result, we are where we are today, which is in a period of crisis.
Such a backroom deal job. You think about RFK Jr. There are a lot of things that I don't agree with him on, but that dude should have had an opportunity, and he got they knew about this 3 years ago. And then a year ago, they have the plan. They had the plan set out, Jeff, for the next, try to cover it up for a year. And then here's the chaos. This is what we're talking about, the chaos in the middle of the summer. This is it right now. So,
and they didn't just do it to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They did it to Bernie Sanders as well.
Absolutely.
Now, twice, at least in major efforts, to elect a president in the Democrat Party bosses have stepped in to say, this is who it is.
Yeah.
And this is the party of democracy.
Yeah, no doubt. And then Bernie Sanders, you can't vote for Trump. Oh, you can't. This dude, man, how can he even get behind them?
Right.
It's incredible. That's why I respect RFK Jr. At least, he's going out there and on a limb by himself. A police officer and a driver were both shot following a rollover crash in Fort Collins Sunday. The driver climbed out of the wrecked car and exchanged gunfire with officers before running into a cemetery. SWAT was called to the scene, and the suspect was arrested and taken to the hospital. The officer is expected to recover, thankfully, from his injuries. No word on the suspect. You know what? Trump was absolutely incredible on Saturday in Michigan. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It is classic.
See the screen up there of me? That's very severe, that comb over. That's a severe sucker. What's with that one? It looks okay from the other side. But that is very severe. I apologize. Man, I looked up there. I said, whoa. Look at that. Wow. That's like a work of art.
That's awesome. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com.
Hey, Blake.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no. That's
Real
right.
quick
Go ahead.
question. This is what's circulating online now. These are the questions in the conservative Twitter space.
Oh, I can't wait.
Do you think Joe Biden's still alive?
Ooh. Interesting. Was he alive a month ago?
Yeah, I mean,
you hear the body double stuff, but no, that is honestly, hey, anything's possible.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Just wanted to throw that out there.
All right. Hey, listening to Van Jones, you wouldn't think so, right?
Right.
Yeah. Who knows, man? I mean, it goes so deep state stuff. All right, let me get this.
Of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Xander Schauffele.
Schauffele wins the British Open, his second major of the year. Todd Helton officially enshrined in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
2-2 on the ground, softly hit. Chapman charges. Chapman got him. And the Giants find a way to get a win.
Hey, beat the Rockies 3-2. Red Sox in town tonight at 6:40. 54 in Westminster, 53 in Castle Rock, 57 in Denver. And Jeff and Bill continue. It is Monday morning. Good morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 7-10 5-day forecast. For most of the week, it's going to be warm and it's going to be hazy. Temperatures today, mid-80s, isolated afternoon and evening thunderstorms, but not many. Lows tonight, low 60s. Hazy sunshine and hot, likely dry. Low 90s Tuesday, low to mid-90s Wednesday, mid to upper 90s Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, thunderstorms return. Weather sponsored by Branch Planning. Some income annuities are paying 25 to 45% more than last year. Get a free retirement review by calling Branch Planning today at 720-651-9800. Find out more at branchplanning.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, at 11:46 a.m. Mountain Time on Sunday, July 21st, President Joe Biden sent this letter. What I find interesting about it is it's not on White House letterhead. It's not on campaign letterhead. It just says Joseph R. Biden Jr. at the top, July 21st, 2024. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we've made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today, what I've always have, that there's nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. Signed, Joseph R. Biden Jr. One thing of interesting note is that there was no mention really of Kamala Harris or support of her as the next candidate. So less than an hour later, about 30 minutes later, he tweeted this: "My fellow Democrats, I have decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president. And it's been the best decision I've made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala and to be the nominee for our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this." That was the big breaking news over the day. That sent the Democrat Party into a flurry of activity. Within 8 hours yesterday, all statewide elected Democrats and congressional Democrats from the state of Colorado had pledged their support to Kamala Harris. Now, that doesn't mean that she's automatically the nominee. In fact, this is going to kick off a big effort to where other people could step up to try to be the nominee. We'll talk with Ted Trimpa in the 8 o'clock hour about the kind of the mechanics within the Democrat Party to pull this all together. It seems that they're trying to coalesce around Kamala Harris, but wow, what a day. Followed, I mean, that was 8 days from the attempted assassination of Donald Trump.
Yeah, and it changes the narrative quite significantly right away.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, because it changes the narrative away from Donald Trump ascension to now Democrat chaos, and it resets the narrative depending on how well the Democrats do with this one. And I had been talking with friends for a while about why the Democrats hadn't been looking to replace Biden. And the answer is, with whom? That's been the question. And now it seems that the party mechanism has decided that they can push all their chips in with Kamala. And we'll see how that goes for them. But this dramatically changes the narrative on both sides and changes things up for the Republicans as well. I'm not certain they're honestly assessing the change in the race right now. Everybody's pointing back at older polls. And again, not necessarily too old, it's some from several weeks, some from months, some from a year ago, about how Kamala does worse against Trump. But that was when she was sitting as vice, not as a presidential nominee.
Head to head.
Yep. And you didn't have the dynamic. The largest weakness that I see right now is this takes the Republican narrative for the past 2 years and changes it 180 degrees. The Republicans are now running the old guy that makes mistakes.
Yep.
And that's a problem when the Republican narrative has been too old to run. If the Democrats are smart, I'm not saying they are. If they are smart, they will start pointing out that Donald Trump will be as old at the end of next term as Biden is now.
Yeah.
They need to make that connection and not let it go if they think this is a path forward. If they think the age thing can work against Trump, they need to make that connection as soon as possible. The other thing is, there were a couple of things. One, I was impressed that Kamala jumped in ASAP. That's important to be the first in to prevent anybody else from getting in. I think that's important. And also, despite what I'm seeing in conservative side of the aisle, I think people are coalescing behind Kamala. I think it's going to be very difficult for anybody else to get in the race, especially since Newsom and what's his name out of Pennsylvania already threw their
Shapiro.
Yeah, their support behind her
And
as the nominee. Yeah, that's important. I know that Manchin is already saying that he's going to try to run for the Democrat nominee, and that is a cry for attention. He's tired of being irrelevant because when's the last time anybody cared what Joe Manchin said? Nobody has cared for 9 months. He wants relevancy again.
Not the base.
No,
Definitely not the Democrat base.
And definitely not the Republicans either. The Republicans haven't cared what Joe Manchin has thought about Biden.
Yeah.
And so he has been mostly irrelevant, and that's his own fault. And so he's looking for relevancy again. And if he thinks that the larger Democrat Party is going to get behind him and vote for him, he's sadly mistaken. He is going to lose badly in this one, because he is viewed as the problem maker, much as I am in the Salem radio family. There's no way they're nominating me.
We went 15 minutes without you talking, and Joan was texting, "Where's Bill?" So as much as you think you're the problem,
exactly.
I think the grassroots conservatives really love you. And when
they love to hate me.
And when they don't hear from you, they're like, "Wait, hold on a second.
Where's the guy that pisses me off?" That's basically it. And I think this is going to be interesting. This is going to be a different road, and I'm wondering if the Republicans are ready. I'm not certain the Democrats are ready for this one, but Kamala makes sense because you can move party donations. You can move apparatus. You also have an easier time with the legalities of making sure that she's on the ballot, because, and here's the thing, and this was very, very clever. Someone yesterday, and actually, no, wait. It was my beautiful wife. I have to give her credit. It was my beautiful wife yesterday when we were talking that said, and I'm talking about, the party and the primaries and how the Democrats did go through a functional primary with Joe Biden and everybody voted for Biden. And she said, wait, didn't they vote for Biden and Harris on the ticket? She says, is that the message? And she was just looking at, she's not advocating one way or the other. She's just saying, is that the message the Democrat Party can use? They voted for Biden and Harris on the ticket. So that makes it easier to move Harris into that position. I hadn't thought about that. I thought that was very clever. I'm like, that may be the reason why she is now the anointed one. Yeah, I think so.
There's a lot of other issues here too. Her competency, that'll be what Republicans focus in on. She had 4 years as a test run. She had one project. You didn't do that well on the project. In fact, I don't think she at this point has still ever visited the border.
I think, I had been pushing on that a while, and someone that is very liberal that I know came back at me, and I don't remember.
Did she go to the border?
She did. She's been there, I think, twice or 3 times. Again, nominally, it's just the typical politician, they take the photos, kiss the babies, but again, she did that, but it was way, way, way late, because I'd been saying that, and he threw that stuff at me. He's like, look, she has been there. So I know that she's been there at least, I think, twice, but is it significant? Is she working on the, on the plans? No, but it's a question. No. I'm getting too far down the road. There's so many other questions that open up, because I think there is a way in which the Democrats, if they're clever, can pretty much change again the narration on the immigration issue and not make it as primary of a focus for most voters. But they'd have to do something they'd have to take a risk. And I'm not certain I think they're going to be risk averse, and it would have to do with who they choose for Veep. I think their Veep can change the narrative, but I don't think they're clever enough to do it. But we'll get to that later in the hour.
Wow. Who could be the vice presidential candidate? Man, phone lines are lighting up. Let's go ahead and start. I was hoping to hear from Jay and Sterling. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning, guys. Thank you again. But anyways, here's the thing. The puppet masters done cut the strings on Biden.
Yep.
And now they're trying to look for a new puppet, because they don't have anybody that can speak for themselves and be a logical, level-headed thought processor to speak on agendas, on any issue whatsoever. So they need a new puppet, and they're going to use her because she can't even say anything besides the changing of time. But I just got to refer to that as the changing of time.
Yeah, well, Jay, I want to point.
She repeated herself 3 times.
I want to point out this is in a political article titled "Why Biden Dropped Out." So this is not a right-wing blog or anything like that. To your point of puppet masters, okay? Nancy made clear that they could do this the easy way or the hard way, said one Democrat familiar with private conversations who's granted anonymity to speak clearly. She gave them 3 weeks of the easy way. It was about to be the hard way.
I agree.
So, I mean, the idea that there are other people involved in this conversation, pulling the strings, absolutely. And what Politico makes it is that it comes down to Pelosi, Schumer, and Jeffries.
And I'll tell you what it really comes down to, in my opinion, Jeff, dollars. When the big donors dry up, that's the people pulling the strings. That's the reason Biden goes.
And when those guys in Hollywood pulled that money out, but how does that work, you guys?
Yeah.
Because all that money gets donated to the DNC, and then it's just a flush or a, how do you guys say, a slush fund or whatever?
Yeah.
And then it's all for them to use for ads and stuff. I'm not.
So it depends on the account it goes to. So you do have campaign limits on how much you can donate to a particular candidate, to the party, that type of thing. But then you get into PACs and super PACs. And those, the only restrictions are those cannot coordinate with the campaign. So a PAC cannot call the Biden campaign and go, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to run these ads over here in New Mexico. You run these ads over in Arizona. They cannot coordinate like that, but they can kind of wink, wink, nod, nod to each other. And when you get to PACs and super PACs, you could dump $45 million into that if you want.
And one of the ways, Jay, they coordinate is the PACs or the campaign will make an announcement about where they're targeting their advertising dollars, letting the other side know so they don't have to talk. So what would happen is the PAC could be looking at targeting Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Arizona, and the campaign will come out and go, we've just done a $45 million buy in Arizona. So the PAC now knows, oh, take Arizona off the table. That's how they get around those rules. Those big announcements about what they're doing, that's what they're doing. It's like playing you play bridge. When you're announcing to your partner in bridge the cards you have, that's what they're trying to do. Yeah.
So I'll be darned. Thank you guys for your knowledge, because I did not know how all that money got switched around.
And I think there are restrictions if it's donated, as Billy said, to, and I'm not an attorney, a campaign attorney, but we'll ask Chris Murray this tomorrow. He's going to be joining us at 6. But if it's given to like Biden Harris, because her name's still on it, she can use it and spend it. But I don't think that would have been such a huge hurdle, because I think once your campaign is done, you can reallocate money.
Yeah. Depending on the suspension, and there are some things. Basically, once you suspend your campaign, or you say you're not running anymore, or you lose, you can do certain things with that money. You can't just take it home and go, look, I have a whole bunch of new money. You're allowed to pay off some debts. You're allowed to do some other stuff, and you can transfer it to some other accounts.
So Biden can transfer it back to her then.
Yes.
Only if it's donated specifically to Joe Biden. If it's a Biden Harris, it transfers naturally to Harris. And that's the advantage the Democrats are seeking. I'm not convinced that the party powers want Harris as the next candidate, but I think it's the easiest path. I think that's what it is they're like, okay, guys, it's basically like, you're the Broncos and it's the third quarter and the starting quarterback has gotten hurt. We don't want to have the person coming off. We don't want Kamala to put on the helmet and come in. We don't think she's going to be able to complete all the passes. We've got to change our strategy, but she's the best chance we have at this point, because she's the only one who's been studying the playbook. She's the only one that has access to the money. She's the only one that can reasonably get over some of these legal hurdles. She is the easiest path forward for them. So that's why I think it's going to be interesting to watch in the next 48 to 72 hours about who gets behind her.
Hey guys,
that was a perfect analogy. That was, I think so too. For us. Nicely done.
Yeah,
nicely done.
The backup quarterback. Jay, appreciate it. Want to get to some breaking news. Speaker Mike Johnson has called for Joe Biden to resign.
Yeah. So what? I mean, I hate it. So what? Who
if
cares?
He's not fit to run for president, is he fit to continue to be president?
I know. All I'm going to say is, if Hakeem Jeffries calls for anything, would President Trump listen to him about anything at all? The answer is no. So again, Mike Johnson's just trying to get into the news cycle. That's all he's doing. He's just trying to get in the news cycle.
The bigger question, though, is if he's not fit to run for president, is he fit to be president? I'd love to hear from you all. Tony calling in. We'll get to you in just a second. Don, Steve, full lines. We'll get to all of you all. This is going to be a big day. We want you to be part of the conversation. If you can't get through on the phone lines, give us a text message on the 710 KNUS app. We'll continue all coverage, all analysis. Joe Biden stepping away from the 2024 presidential election. Kamala Harris seems to be the designated replacement. Is she fit? Is this a good thing for the Democrats? Are they going to be able to unite and coalesce? Or is this a good thing for Donald Trump? And he's easily going to win. Want to hear from you all? You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in the UK, I'm John Beaver, and here are the top stories we're following. Joe Biden has announced he's dropping out of the 2024 presidential race and has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris instead. It follows weeks of pressure from senior party figures who've both privately and publicly called on Mr. Biden to step down. There have been concerns about the president's age and mental fitness following a stilted debate performance against his Republican rival, Donald Trump. Our Washington correspondent, Jagruti Dave, has more.
This is a stunning decision by President Biden, who just earlier in the day appeared to still be expressing confidence in his ability to run and defeat Donald Trump in November's election. But he appears to have bowed to pressure from within. In a statement, he said he believed it's in the best interest of his party and the country that he steps down. Top Democrats such as former US President Barack Obama and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called Joe Biden one of America's most consequential presidents. Mr. Biden, who plans to address the nation later this week, has endorsed his vice president. Kamala Harris, she says she intends to earn and win the nomination so she can unite her party and the country and defeat Donald Trump. In Washington, Jagruti Dave, Salem News Channel.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm John Beaver in the UK on Salem News Channel.
Don from Colorado Springs here on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. What do you think of this, Don?
Good morning, men. I'm going to say this, that Dan Caplis's prophecy was fulfilled, and he was proven correct, and the trends were in his favor.
Yeah, I think Dan did call that a while ago.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I love Dan, and Dan's very, very intelligent, but Dan said that Joe Biden stepping aside, and so far is only half right. He said Melania. That's the thing. So you got to make sure that if we're going to give prophecy,
Melania or Michelle?
Or sorry, Michelle. Sorry,
I'm for Melania stepping up.
But
There
Michelle.
you go.
So that's again, if you're going to give credit for prophecy, the prophecy's got to be true 100%. You don't get 50% credit on it. So again, very intelligent. And even our own Blake Olson was talking about him stepping down, and Peter Boyles as well. And so Dan absolutely should put this notch in his belt that he was correct about Biden not making it. But let's see if it's Michelle Obama, because that's been his pick the entire time.
I mean, you know, I think I have to disagree with him on Michelle Obama too.
Yeah, I would too.
Because, you know, with Michelle, she likes the good life and all of that, and
I do too.
She doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to go back. She doesn't want to go back to work, you know, because being president would be difficult.
Yeah, think about that, Don. Independently wealthy? Oh, please. Yeah, that's so hard. Yeah, to not have to do anything and have all the money to do whatever you want. Yeah, that's so difficult. Why would you ever go back to work? Never.
Don, and it shows the hypocrisy in Michelle Obama. You know how she is in her makeup. She loves making the money but wants everybody else to redistribute the wealth. What if she won't do it?
Yeah, that's the socialists, right? Nobody has money except for those in the political elites. Don, what do you think of Kamala Harris? You think this is good for Trump? You think he spikes the football at this point because she's definitely not going to win, or you think she's a real challenge for him?
It's going to be a tight race because I think Kamala Harris can pull it off if they need to step up the challenge. She's got the backing of the Clintons, and Hillary probably knows best that, you know what, it's better to have power pulling the strings, just like Lady Macbeth or whoever is married behind the Caesar. You know, that seems to be her only path towards power now.
Yeah. Don, I appreciate the call.
Point.
Don from Colorado Springs. His line will be open 303-696-1971. I want to go to Tony. I'd like to hear what Tony thinks of all this. Tony, glad to have you calling in. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning. What do you think?
Hey, good morning. Well, I think you may recall last week I told you guys, you know, he would be dropping out when you didn't necessarily think he was going to drop out, and he would endorse Kamala, and he did, and no surprise. This week he'll be giving an address, and it's going to be positioned not by him per se, but it will be positioned that he sacrificed to save the democracy, and he felt there was a better chance of somebody else winning. He was finally convinced he couldn't win, or he didn't have the best chance, so he stepped down. And history's going to note that, you know, for the sake of democracy, he stepped down. Now Kamala, it's over. She's got it. There's nobody challenging. It's my understanding that every state Democratic chairman has already endorsed her. She raised $50 million yesterday.
How do you feel that? And Tony, I don't know your party affiliation. I think you're a Democrat, but I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong. That seemed to happen very fast. Within 8 hours, all major Democrat Party leaders in the state of Colorado were behind Kamala. You like that? Would you have voted for her if it was a primary?
It was the only move that made sense. There's not time. You don't want to go in and have a contested convention, and it won't be contested. She'll be overwhelmingly. She'll have enough votes long before she gets to the convention that it will all know that she's the one. The key is who she picks as her VP. Now think about what she brings to the Democrats now. They were already going to win women and blacks and Latino, but given her presence, they're certainly going to pick up women, even more women. One, they're going to pick up more black population, of course. But most important, that Venn diagram, they're going to get black women. And that is at the heart of the Democratic base. They have to have that number being extraordinarily large. And that's because she's a woman, she's going to attract black women.
Yeah,
now,
and Tony, I think you're very intelligent there as far as behind the scenes. I think that's why the Democrat power brokers have started to coalesce behind her, because she plugs the hole that was leaking in the Biden campaign, which were blacks, Latinos, and specifically black women. There weren't a lot of them, but they were leaking just enough of a percentage over to Trump that it could potentially make a difference in some of those swing states. And this changes it. You're right.
Now, her next move, though, is to close that gap on the Latino population. And I'd mentioned to you then, I've got my fingers crossed. Right now, the conventional wisdom is they're going to pick a governor from a state that they can pick, they'll pick up that state. Let's say Gretchen Whitmer, but it won't be her because they're not going to go with an all-female ticket. And there's not very many good options to try and get these swing states. So I'm hoping they've thought through that, and the pick, I'll stand behind it. I get Julian Castro and his brother, if you will, because his brother will work with him, and put him on as the VP. And if you remember his background, mayor of San Antonio, the Texas native, mayor of San Antonio, popular mayor of San Antonio, HUD secretary for the Obama administration, ran in 2020, gave a great speech. It's on YouTube. You can kind of hear this guy talk, very articulate, very smart, very soft-spoken. And if she put him on the ticket and went one step further and said his primary job will be to work on a comprehensive immigration reform package. Nobody knows this better than he does. That's his number one job. That's the number one reason why I picked this guy. He's going to work on immigration, and he has anything he needs to accomplish that task. Then that's post, the election.
That's interesting. Now, Tony, I got a question for you on this one. That's really interesting. I hadn't even thought about Castro. I can see the strategy behind it. My heart, where I'm sitting as the unaffiliated, I can't figure out how Kamala can't pick a white guy. And the only reason is this. So far in the history of our country, white guys have done pretty well running for offices. If you look at all the people that have won the offices, a lot of them are white guys. We seem to be, as an electorate, super comfortable with white guys. The opponents, of Kamala Harris, the Republicans, run into white guys. How does she not pick a white guy?
Let me address that, because that is the conventional wisdom. But the white guys that they've got, the governor of Kentucky and the governor of North Carolina.
Yeah.
However, as popular as they are, they're not going to bring those states with them. They're not going to bring those states.
You're right.
So they really have one guy that they're looking at, and it's the senator from Arizona,
Mark Kelly.
Yeah, Mark Kelly.
They
could go after
Kelly.
Shapiro. They could go after Shapiro in Pennsylvania, but Kelly does strategically make more sense as the white guy because he's a senator, and it would allow the Democrat governor to replace him. They don't lose a potential seat. It's very smart.
And that's a conventional. And I'm just simply saying, I think there's a bolder move, and that is and the average Democrat like me, I could care less what color they are. I want the most competent person for the specific task. Now, one other
Tony,
issue that I think is
before
important.
you go to that, though, I got to ask you, because when you say competency and kind of meritocracy, you sound like a conservative Republican. But when we started the conversation, it was all kind of identity-based politics. She's going to appeal to black women. She's going to appeal to Hispanics. I wonder at what point, and maybe it's this election, that really doesn't matter as much, because under Joe Biden, everybody's broke. So
you know what?
That's
your story. That's your story. But that's not the truth. The truth is the economy is much stronger than you're giving credit. And I don't want to win this argument. We don't have time to talk about economics. That is going to be in her court to present that case and repackage the economic data and explain that Why do we have, I don't want to go too far down this because I got a bigger point to make to you, but we'll just go quickly. The inflation side, when you're talking about inflation, you have to acknowledge it's a universal, it's across the entire globe. And what kicked it off was the tight supply chain from China, which was the byproduct of COVID. So if you want to say Biden is responsible for global inflation, then Trump was responsible for the global pandemic, which is silly on both counts. The reality
we only got about 2 minutes left, so go ahead and wrap up with your bigger point, Tony.
Let me go back to where I think where Castro could be huge, and that is put him in charge of doing one thing before the election. He and his brother, and I say his brother because they're both popular, pound Arizona and Nevada and Texas because they could actually make Texas scary and a nightmare for the Republican Party, because these guys, one of them's now on the ticket, and the brothers are highly popular. And you tell them, you go win Arizona, you go win Nevada. By the way, she can lose Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia and still win the Electoral College, 273. But those guys could allow them to pick up Arizona and Nevada and scare the hell out of the Republican Party in Texas, and forcing them to put money and time into Texas to try and defend it. Because if they lost Texas, there's no route to the White House for Republicans.
That's interesting. And the other thing I'd point in there, Tony, is before we let you go, is the abortion law inside of Texas opens up women votes in a way that I don't think we've seen that opened in Texas in the past. I think there are going to be a lot of people that wear the Republican jersey that when they fill out that ballot might not vote Republican because of that issue. I think
all right, Tony, appreciate the call. We're just out of time. Tony from Littleton, his line will be open 303-696-1971. I appreciate the optimism of the idea that all of a sudden Texas is in play and we get the Castro brothers running around Arizona and Nevada. All right. Well, I'm struggling between just the idea that maybe the Democrats are totally out in the pasture, or maybe they're onto something, but I don't see that happening. But Tony, I appreciate the call. All right, we'll get to all of them. Absolutely jam-packed phone lines. We can maybe slip one in if you call right now, 303-696-1971. Text us on the 710 KNUS text line. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Phone lines jam-packed as we're discussing Joe Biden's withdrawal and the ascension of Kamala Harris to the presidential, likely the presidential nomination for the Democrat Party. I think Suzanne is right. Suzanne from Denver writes that they'll likely go with Mark Kelly, a swing state winner, also an astronaut. And I'm just going to share briefly a story, Billy, about that. Bill Armstrong, you remember Bill? Former U.S. Senator here from Colorado, was the president of CCU for many years. He thought about running for president. So he did a poll. This was back in like 88. And he did a poll and they asked people if they thought Bill Armstrong would make a good president. And their response was, yes, we'd love to have an astronaut as president.
Oh, whoops.
Thinking it was Neil Armstrong.
Yeah.
And so I always go back to that and I go, you know what? People would love to have an astronaut as president.
Yeah, they would. Yeah. And again,
they're still seen as America's heroes.
Yeah. And Mark clicks the old white guy box. So that works too. I can't figure out how she gets around not picking a white guy. I just think that is how the electorate is played. The other one that we'll have to get into later is now that the Republican convention is over, does J.D. Vance end up being a bad pick because he was strategic against a Biden-Harris ticket? That ticket doesn't exist anymore. A Harris somebody else potential ticket. Does J.D. Vance do the same things? Yeah, or does he become more of an albatross? Because again, he was Captain MAGA at the Republican convention.
The next generation of MAGA.
Yep, exactly. So does him coming out and donning the cape and the tights actually hurt the campaign in the long run? Again, depending on how the Democrats tack strategically. Luckily, they're not that bright on that one. So we'll see what happens.
There's a whole lot to cover on today's show with regards to Kamala Harris. How did this happen? Why did it happen? Who is she going to pick as vice president? How is the Trump campaign going to adjust now? We were saying last week that they were likely waiting until the end of the convention so that everybody went, Biden Harris is terrible. And now that it's done, well, the Republicans don't have a national stage to be able to respond quite so effectively. So
I talked to a PR person yesterday that'll talk about what they would do if they were in charge, how they would launch this new candidate for the Dems. We can talk about that later.
A lot to cover. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. Mile High City, and you've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710KNUS for the first time in 48 years. We are going to have a presidential election without a Bush, Biden, or Clinton on the ticket. It's a new day in America, Billy.
Can we do that? Can we do that? Is that allowed? Is it against the rules
they'll
or something?
probably bring Hillary back to the VP.
No, again, wait, be careful, because you know what happens. If you say her name 3 times, she appears like Beetlejuice. So don't do that, man. Don't do that. We can't afford that this morning.
It is a wild day in America, and you have tuned into Denver's news talk radio station covering everything. Joe Biden's withdrawal from the presidential campaign and the ascension of Kamala Harris to the likely nomination. She still has to go through a process, but man, within 8 hours, all the Democrats, it's almost like they got talking points. All the Democrat leadership in the state of Colorado was all about Kamala. Woohoo! She's going to be great. Now, what's unique to me in all of this, Billy, and you had a great point and with Tony in the last hour, is it seems like Democrats for the first time in 4 years can think creatively.
Yeah. And this is what they should have been doing last year. And this is what, again, the thing is, strategically, Democrats aren't really, really bright most of the time. And it would have been strategy-wise, would have been really intelligent to run a primary, have Biden stepping away, run a primary along with the Republicans, because then you get to suck all the air out of what the Republican narrative is. You have a dueling narrative, and you have a narrative of their leading guy is stuck in court cases while our leading people are out doing, doing all the campaign stuff that Biden couldn't do. It would have been a much stronger way to run this. But thankfully, they aren't that good at it.
Billy, Donald Trump was impeached, banned from social media, threatened with ballot removal, indicted, arrested, convicted, and shot. And it was Joe Biden that dropped out.
Yeah, I know. That's a strange thing. But again, it's, we talked about it last week. Sorry. We talked about how Democrats at times fall in love and Republicans fall in line. And I disagree. I think that's used by the people on the opposite side of the aisle.
Yeah.
Here, I think we can disprove Democrats saying that, because here, I think we're going to see Democrats fall in line. This will be a good test of that bromide, because the Democrats have to. If they go through any sort of a chaotic primary, you're done. Trump's going to win,
Billy,
and they've got to be scared of that.
The genius point you made during the last hour, that this is like when...
That's my only one. I got to go home then. I'm allowed one a day. It's one a week. I can't even be here for the rest of the week.
That this is like when the star quarterback takes the bench in the third quarter.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of other options. No. Get behind the backup quarterback, and is it going to be tough? Yes.
Yep.
Is it the only shot we got? Yes.
Yep.
So get out there on the field and start.
And what is it? And you start looking through the playbook going, okay, what are the plays we can run? We can't have the entire playbook. But then again, with Biden, you only had a couple plays anyway. So maybe this expands the playbook a little bit for the Democrats. I don't know.
All right. Text messages are coming in because our phone lines are jam-packed. We're going to get to Steve, Mary, and Joe in just a second. If you can't get through on the phone line, text us at the 710 KNUS app. Look, any other show in Colorado, you're going to listen to monologues for the entire show. We are inviting you to be part of the conversation today. What do you think? What do you think really happened? Why did Joe step down? Is Kamala good? Are you excited about her? Are you ready for her to step up and become the new presidential nominee? And do you think she can beat Trump? Who's going to win in November? All those questions are fair game. Give us a call at 303-696-1971. We'll get to Steve right after the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, guys. I can't believe it's been only 8 days since Trump has been shot.
Yeah.
This seems like 8 years ago.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be one of those things in the history books that is going to be looked at as one of the weirdest 4 weeks ever in American politics.
No doubt.
Yeah. It's the kids are going to look at it and go,
so
what?
Fast. It's so fast you think of how it used to work.
Yeah. Here's the thing. We were just talking strategy a minute ago about how the Democrats should have pulled Biden last year. Now, again, if the Democrats were planning this, the power brokers behind, I would have said the strongest day to have a Biden drop out would have been the day after the weekend after the Republican National Convention last week, because then you take away the narrative from the convention. You change the news, the narrative. That would have been, again, But Democrats' strategy, they don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, that's
No,
thankfully
I agree.
good.
I think if Obama wants his fourth term, I think this was all planned. Who's going to be who's the next best puppet? It would be Kamala. And they knew they'd have to drag this out as long as they could.
I agree with you because what has she done?
Nothing.
Can somebody please give me one major accomplishment of Kamala Harris? Billy, I'm open to it.
Nothing.
I can't think of it.
Same here.
She was elected district attorney for San Francisco twice. She was elected AG for California. No, she's elected AG for California. Right. She was elected.
She knows the law.
And she was elected to Senate out of California. She served
I'm
longer
not
than
disagreeing
JD
that
Vance.
she's elected.
But
what does she achieve?
She will have some stuff inside of those office and inside of the Senate that she will be able to point to.
But it's not even at the top of your mind. It's not at the top of my mind. I can't think of a single thing she has actually achieved.
She's only been to the border one time, and she's the border czar. I think she's only been to El Paso one time. I mean, this is just
the only thing
she wants to be the president of the United States, and I can't think of one thing she has actually achieved other than winning elections.
Yeah, but here's the problem. And again, this is why Donald Trump is the greatest possible candidate for the Republicans and also the weakest possible candidate for the Republicans. The list of Donald Trump accomplishments from his term aren't necessarily that long either. We have a lot of things we feel good about, but he has no major legislative accomplishments outside of the tax cut. He does, and there's a series of things. We can talk about what he did on immigration, but not a lot of that was accomplished through legislation. It was done through executive order, and he had to get his money by pulling billions of dollars out of the Department of Defense, and they've had some problems replacing that money as well.
However,
so
the
his
world
list is,
the world was stable when he was the president.
I think Syria disagrees, and I think Afghanistan would disagree with you as well. And there's some other places around the world that would disagree.
Americans my age who have children and they don't want to go into World War III. I mean, you can point to Trump and say, look, he knows how to handle dictators worldwide.
I know, but do you notice this though, Blake? Here's the problem with that. The conversation we started on was Harris and her accomplishments. And when I ask about accomplishments,
and we still don't have them.
I know, but hang on a sec. When I ask about the laundry list of Trump accomplishments, we switch to
the interest rates were lower. It was easier to live. The border was closed. It was safer. It was cleaner.
Safer how?
You name it.
Wait, safer how though?
Well,
again, I'm not going to get into
how
an argument
there
here.
weren't. No, that's fine. There weren't 10 million to 30 million. Who knows? Illegal aliens running around cities committing crimes.
Yeah, but violent crimes down under Biden. Statistically.
Well, a lot of it isn't recorded because they're illegals. You have no idea what illegals
Here's the thing,
are
though.
doing.
No, but you understand what you've done now, Blake. I mean, I love you, but you've now gone, crime was worse. And then when I say, but the statistics show it isn't, you say, well, the statistics are lying to us. So again, that's a problem with this. And so be careful. And that's all I'm cautioning with. Be careful with the idea of what has Kamala done. Because JD Vance doesn't have a huge list of things that he's accomplished that way. Neither does Trump when he was in office. And some of that has to do with people in his own party. And he only held the Congress for 2 years. And that's hard. That's going to be difficult. I'm just saying, be strategic on your attacks against Kamala. She is a weak candidate, but you have to be smart about how you attack her. Make sure that you also don't have the same weaknesses. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, I hear you. No, I mean, you bring up some great points, but does she love America? I want you to count how many times at the DNC the crowd starts yelling USA, USA.
Very good point.
That's a curse. That's a curse word to Kamala Harris and all the Democrats.
And the point that you have made is the strongest one so far is the immigration issue. That is at this point her Achilles heel. I think I know how she can get around it. She's not going to like it, nor will she do it. But I know how she can get around it. And Tony actually helped us with it a little bit last hour. But you're absolutely right, Blake, that her major weakness is going to be the immigration and the border, especially because she was the border czar. And if Republicans attack her in any way other than that, they're missing the narrative of the game. They're absolutely missing the narrative of the story.
Law and order is important, and how they view the police is also huge. She was, she was part of that.
Point. Yeah. Hey, Blake, on that, here's Kamala on police.
Let's talk about America's failure when it comes to understanding how you create safe communities. And by that, I mean this. It is outdated. It is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street. What we have to do, and what we will do, is reimagine public safety.
Oh man, that is perfect.
So
right on time.
There
Nice
was
job.
an effort right out of BLM and the George Floyd incident to put it's almost like a Monty Python skit to send these quote unquote counselors into the most dangerous neighborhoods with the idea that they were just going to somehow talk the criminals out of committing crimes. And I couldn't for the life of me think who would be willing to take on that job. Some white liberal like social worker that just thinks that we just need to love our criminals better. And they would they grew up in Cherry Hills. Right. And the reason that there's all these problems in the world is just because people weren't talked to. Those were the types of people that were going to be pushed out into the most dangerous neighborhoods. And it was the people like Kamala Harris that were like, we need to reimagine.
Yes.
Even
though on the record she was the toughest on marijuana,
which I like.
Dealers.
I'm for that.
Yes,
so that's where I'm kind of like,
okay,
all right,
for low information, and I'll get going here. But for low information voters, to me, all you have to do is show 5 or 6 shots, video of San Francisco the way it looks right now, and say, you know what, Kamala Harris is from San Francisco and she supports this. This is what you're voting for. Do you want America to look like San Francisco? Come on. So yeah, hey, I don't underestimate these jokers for anything. And we got to go, if you're on the right and you're a conservative, you've got to go harder than you ever have before.
Yep. That's right.
You got to crush her. So I don't, with Bill's point, he's right. I mean, there are a lot of things, and I got to look up that crime thing. I'm going to figure that thing out. All right, 59 as the sun is out now in Denver, expecting highs in the mid 80s. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
All of us are going to be in this situation someday, and I hope that we take a moment to honor this man and to love this man. I love Joe Biden. I appreciate what he's done, and a lot of people are heartbroken today. Even if it's the right thing, it's still just horrible.
Van Jones, the communist sympathizer on CNN, goes on and on and on, almost like President Biden has passed away. But as far as we know, Biden is alive and dropping out of the race because he's not mentally fit.
This is leadership. This is patriotism. This is what it means to put the country first and put the party first and put the cause first. When your arm gets tired, you let somebody else finish pitching the game. That's what Joe Biden has done, and he's done that for all of us. And so I just want to say, I don't know who's going to be the VP, the non-VP. I don't know anything about politics. I just know that I love this man. I care about this man. It was painful every day to sit up here and talk about him like he's just some problem for the party.
Yeah.
Wait till we get to the convention. You're going to see people crying, standing, screaming, cheering. He may not get a chance to talk for 10 minutes.
There are going to be people outside that place crying and screaming also with all the protesters. Governor Polis called Biden a true partner to Colorado and that he's making the right choice for the future of America. Polis says the U.S. can't afford another potential 4 years of a disastrous Trump presidency. Trump says Biden, Harris, Biden, Schmeiden, whatever. It doesn't matter.
I wouldn't be worried about any of them. Look, they have bad policies. Forget about the people. They have an open border policy. They have a high tax policy. They have a bad military policy. The whole world is going woke. Their world is going woke. The Green New Scam, we're spending all our money on things that don't work.
On paper, Biden gave his endorsement to VP Harris. What an education.
More parents are seeing the value of educators when they had to bring their kids and say, we're not paying them nearly enough.
Okay, so if Harris is the candidate, who will be the VP candidate? Josh?
I'm leaving. If I have to listen to 4 years, I can't. Dude, the amount of text messages we're getting, 8422, her voice is so painful.
It's screech, man, the whole time.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? I mean, there's part of me that just wants to live it in a dream so it's not reality. but you could, I mean, if Saturday Night Live was a true comedy show and she was the president, I mean, how could that they would have so much overflow material.
That's exactly right. And look, I adore comedy, and when Saturday Night Live and Tina Fey got Sarah Palin, it was choice. I'm going to go back to the 80s words, right? Like it was so good. They did such a funny job parodying Sarah Palin, and they won't do it with Kamala Harris.
No. Oh my God. Every night they could have bonus hours. Just nothing. Just take Monday, and they'd have enough material. Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania could be the guy for VP. I'm sure all those Hamas supporters on the left would love that. John King from CNN.
Well, he's certainly under consideration. I know that from key Harris allies. He's a first-term governor. He's Jewish. There could be some risks in putting him on the ticket, but certainly some of our voters here in Pennsylvania said, hey, we like Governor Shapiro. Give him a look. Also told Anderson that some other governors, Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, are on the list of the Harris team. One Harris ally told me today they hope to get her within a few days, assuming her path to the nomination continues to look good, and it does tonight, but we still have some question marks. They hope to get her a list, they say within several days to a week, of 4 or 5 names for her to pick from.
How can you say that just because someone's Jewish, they're a risk to the ticket?
Right. I mean, the fact that Democrats now are squeamish about that.
About a Jew being on the ticket? Give me a break. Are you that is just like that.
It's amazing.
I mean,
even low
KKK.
information voters would understand that. How far left?
Gosh, we can't have a Jew on the ticket. That sounds like it comes from David Duke.
Yes, but Trump is the Hitler.
Jeez.
He's the Hitler guy. Now, it is amazing. All right, they have some legal issues also in Wisconsin, Nevada, and Georgia with state rules and laws regarding presidential candidates. I'm sure they'll find a way around that. RFK Jr. says the deep state Democrats are corrupt.
But they got rid of, they changed the primary rules while while we were running the primary. They changed 60 different rules to make it impossible for anybody to challenge Joe Biden. One of the things that you remember that they did to me is I've been campaigning in New Hampshire, so they adopted a rule that said that any political candidate, any Democratic candidate who campaigns in New Hampshire, who steps foot into the state of New Hampshire, that all of their votes would go to the president, all of their delegates would go to the president.
That is amazing. All right, Jefferson County investigators say 13-year-old Maya Posas took her mother's car Saturday night, and it was later found crashed along Vine Street. Posas hasn't been seen or heard from since then. She's described as 5'3", weighs about 135 pounds, has brown hair, brown eyes, and was last seen wearing black shorts and a black tube top. Anyone with information on her whereabouts is urged to contact law enforcement.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Xander Schauffele.
Schauffele wins the British Open, his second major of the year. Todd Helton officially enshrined into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
2-2 on the ground, softly hit. Chapman charges, Chapman got him! And the Giants find a way to get a win.
3-2 over the Rockies. Red Sox in town tonight at Coors Field at 6:40. 53 in Boulder, 56 in Parker, 59 in Denver. And guys, I got to tell you really quick, weekend update. I was up in Wyoming, and I have never been caught in a thunderstorm on a lake. It came in quick.
Really?
It frightened us to death. Thank God my younger brother was driving the pontoon, and my nephew got a little sound of it here. And we were like, what are we in the Poseidon adventure? What is going? I mean, it was going sideways. I don't know what was happening down here. I'm sure you got some severe weather, but man, I was so thankful that we got out of that over the weekend. But it was the greatest weekend I've ever had. And I hope you guys had a great weekend as well. Jeff and Bill continue. It is Monday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 7-10 5-day forecast. For most of the week, it's going to be warm and it's going to be hazy. Temperatures today, mid-80s, isolated afternoon and evening thunderstorms, but not many. Lows tonight, low 60s. Hazy, sunshine, and hot, likely dry. Low 90s Tuesday, low to mid-90s Wednesday, mid to upper 90s Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, thunderstorms return. Weather sponsored by Branch Planning. Some income annuities are paying 25 to 45% more than last year. Get a free retirement review by calling Branch Planning today at 720-651-9800. Find out more at branchplanning.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, let's get to the phone line. Steve, you've been very patient. Steve from Denver, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning, Steve. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Jeff and Billy. Well, I'm very supportive of Harris. I think the conservatives and your listeners woefully underestimate her credentials and her potential. She raised $57 million within a couple hours, and they were all small donations. She's won more elections than Trump and Vance combined. You got to realize the issue is going to be joined. Half of the country detests MAGA. MAGA is on the other half. All of Trump's weaknesses are going to be adjudicated. I like Roy Cooper of North Carolina for the vice president. And you know, the attacks sound so similar to Obama, you know, that she doesn't love America and he's not an American and all of those issues. And all of the things that come out on your station, such as, oh, she's a DEI hire, or, oh, she had an affair, all of these things. There's an entire half of the country that feels differently. So you guys are going to have to just win.
Steve, to your point, I think if Republicans get comfortable, that's very, very dangerous. They've got to treat her very seriously, and they need to go after her as a worthy opponent. Help me understand why you like her. What is it about her that you go, she can be the leader of the free world?
Well, you know, here's what's interesting. When President Biden appointed Justice Jackson, if you look at her credentials on paper, they're greater than any of the other Supreme Court justices. And naturally, you know, the right-wing response will be, oh, it was a DEI appointment. Oh, it was affirmative action. So she has greater credentials than Vance. She's done more in her career than Vance. In the course of her public career, she's advanced a lot of issues. There's no question the border is important. That'll be adjudicated. What never comes up on your station in terms of the opposite view is there's half of the country that is infuriated by the right to life issue. She'll be an advocate for that.
Ooh, I brought that up last hour. I just want credit for that.
She's been an advocate for the issues that are important to Democrats. And she was an advocate for those issues as the Attorney General, as a senator, and as a vice president.
Now, Steve, how are her credentials better than Vance? Sorry, hold on. You wrote her credentials are better than Vance. She graduated from Howard, a fine university, but went to University of California, Hastings College of Law. Vance went to Yale.
Yeah, but he's never practiced law. That's the issue. Is Vance has never done law.
He was elected. Yeah. He was elected district attorney twice. She was elected Attorney General of the state of California, the second largest justice department in the country. She was elected a United States Senator. And if you ever saw her examination of the Attorney General Barr before the Senate, she's elected vice president. What in the world has Vance done that's comparable to that? He graduated.
But he's the but he's the vice presidential pick. He's not the top of the ticket. This is you're asking the American voter to put Kamala Harris as the leader of the free world. And do you think her accomplishments warrant that? Or yes. Here's the question, Steve. Would you be happy with anybody other than Trump?
Oh, I would, yes. But I think she has earned this space, and I think if it were a wide open primary, she would win.
Interesting.
I think,
That's an interesting point to me. And I asked Tony that, who's a Democrat, in the previous hour too. If this was a wide open primary, would she win? Would you vote her over Gavin Newsom, Jared Polis, and the other bunch of Democrats that are coming up? Shapiro, those guys.
I would, yes, and Polis will never be elected.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
People have to have certain qualities to be elected president or vice president, and I just don't think he has those. It's definitely not. I just can't imagine him being president of the United States.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I've watched him give speeches before, and I'm like, how is this guy?
Yeah, for me, Steve and Jeff, I think the biggest problem for Polis is the same problem as Buttigieg. Homosexuality. There is a segment of our electorate that is not going to vote for homosexual. Doesn't matter. There's a segment of our electorate that's not going to vote for a woman. Doesn't matter what.
But do you think that segment's that big? Because every corporation in America throws up the pride stuff.
I think
it's not like they pay a price for it.
I think it is large enough, and unfortunately, there is a segment of the Democrat electorate that is definitely anti-homosexual and would not vote for them in that type of a position of power. They will tolerate them being in party and elsewhere in leadership, but putting them in the presidency, there's no way they're going to vote for them.
Steve, I got to ask you last question real quick. We just got to move on to the other phone calls. Who do you think would be a good VP pick? Who would get you excited to get out there and fight?
I absolutely love Roy Cooper of North Carolina. I think he would be absolutely tremendous. I don't think Shapiro would take it. Obviously, Mark Kelly and Andy Beshear of Kentucky would be great, but I think Roy, and
he's the governor of North Carolina. For those that
correct,
don't know. I didn't know.
He's a sitting governor, and he's term limited.
Interesting. Well, Steve, I really appreciate the call. I love, especially today, the Democrat perspectives coming through. Helps me understand. And Billy, to your point earlier, this has unleashed Democrats in ways that they haven't been able to be creative with regards to the leadership of their party in the last 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
So very cool to hear from him. Steve, thanks so much for the phone call. We'll get to Mary here in just a second. I want to talk to you all first about Dr. Mike and Rocky Mountain Dental Group. Fortunately, I was not born with good teeth. It's a genetic thing, and I've had to have a lot of work done. But with all that work, I've come to know good dentists, and Dr. Mike at Rocky Mountain Dental Group is fantastic. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. See for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. I've been going there for over 20 years. Dr. Mike and his entire staff are outstanding. I like the fact the same person always cleans my teeth. If you need an awesome dentist, Dr. Mike is your guy. If your gums are receding, it's critical to address the issue promptly. Dr. Mike is a top-tier expert in the Chow pinhole surgical technique. This method requires no cutting, no sutures, and virtually no downtime. The procedure involves making a small hole in the tissue and gently repositioning the gums. Schedule a free consultation with Dr. Mike to discover all the benefits of this revolutionary procedure. Call 303-233-1335. That's 303-233-1335, or visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com to book your free consultation today. All right, let's go to Mary in Wyoming. Good morning, Mary.
Hey, good morning. Have you noticed that it seems to be a push right now to get not only Biden out of not doing the run for next year, but the push is to get him out of office now.
I would disagree with that. There's a push from the Republicans, but I don't think that matters.
That's my point.
Oh, yeah, no, but that doesn't matter. The Republicans don't want to impeach Joe Biden for 3 years. What the Republicans want to do is irrelevant in large, especially right
I
now.
believe it is Kamala into the office and have her start running and showing how ineffective she is.
That would be
able to use
personally,
that.
Mary, that would be an awful idea.
You think
it would
so?
be atrocious. Yes.
Because that would essentially do, I think Mary has a point. That would essentially do what all the candidates in Congressional District 4 in that Republican primary wanted, right? If I could get in there now.
Yeah. Why did they want to get in there?
Then you're electing an incumbent as opposed to a new person. Why wouldn't she want to be able to demonstrate I can lead now? Look, Joe Biden could hand America the first black female president by simply walking away.
I understand, but again, the where we started the conversation was that's a push by Republicans. That's not a push by Democrats.
Why wouldn't that be good for her?
I would be hesitant to want her there. What I think they want is they don't want. The reason I don't think it's happening right now is the Democrats don't want a coronation. Even though right now we're walking towards a coronation, they want to give the appearance of openness and choice. If you just name Kamala Harris as the president right now, there's no openness nor choice. And the other part is it's 4 months. It's why Greg Lopez is the smartest politician in the state of Colorado. He can go to Congress and he just has to find the bathroom. There's not a lot that he can mess up or do
all the
negatively.
candidates wanted that. They all wanted that seat so they could be the incumbent.
Yes. So the issue is
why wouldn't this be good for Kamala?
But hang on, why would the Republicans want to push for this? Why do you have Johnson saying he needs to step down? Why do you have people floating the idea of the 25th Amendment against Biden? Because you're giving Kamala a better chance at running. And the reason the Democrats don't want it right now is because of the appearance of a coronation. That's the reason they're pushing back against it.
Have you noticed that Obama did not support Kamala? He wants the open convention.
No, he doesn't. He didn't say that, Mary.
That was no. I read that on just on yesterday.
No, Mary.
Because when that came out, and also,
Mary, hang on, wait, Mary, hang on a second, Mary.
I keep saying it's
wait,
Michelle.
Mary, hang on a sec. No, Obama did not say, "Hey, it's going to be open for everybody. I can't wait to see the convention." He did say it's open now. He did say that there's a choice, and that is true. And that goes back to my point about why Kamala doesn't assume the presidency now, because the Democrats need the appearance of a choice. There is no real choice. The power brokers have chosen Kamala. They are going to push her across the finish line unless something goes sideways. There is no choice. This is it. And the reason that Joe Biden stepped aside this weekend, I believe, is because Kamala, everybody coalesced inside internal party politics that she's the choice. She's the horse we got to run. That's the reason why it doesn't happen. That's why Barack Obama, he will eventually, I believe, come into line, but they need to have the appearance of choice. That's the reason Obama did that.
Obama is the puppet master. He wants to get back in, and how he's going to do that. And I keep saying, you keep saying that, oh, it's because she wants to socialize. She doesn't want to be on that. This has been long time planned. This was not just this coming up because of the events now. This has been the Democrats have been a step ahead of the Republicans for years.
Then why isn't Michelle the nominee now? Why are we doing this stuff with Kamala?
Because that is, they're doing this play about, she's not interested in being into politics. You watch, because she is not actually going to be the president. In other words, she will continue to on her merry way, is using the position to be able to get Obama back in.
Okay, now Mary, I love you, Mary, but so far, you've just decided that Obama's in charge no matter what happens. Whether Michelle becomes the nominee or doesn't become the nominee or Kamala's the nominee, you've come to the conclusion that Obama's in charge. So it doesn't matter.
He's the puppet master.
Yeah, but we have no proof of that. But that's okay. I understand why you believe that, and that's okay. But we have no proof of that. But see, the problem that you're having is you're like, it has to be Michelle. Everything else, it's because you're starting at the point that Barack Obama's in charge, wants to be and continues to be in charge. I see nothing saying that is true.
His policies have been exactly on Biden. He said, look at all the people he left in government, and that was one of the problems that Trump had, is that all of the appointees of Obama's were still in there.
Well, Trump makes his own Trump does his own appointments.
Mary, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Always good to hear from Mary from Wyoming. I want to talk to you all about Empower Home and my friend Gay Ribble. Look, if you've got to sell a home, that's one of the most stressful times of your life. I get it. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team are there to help every step of the way. There's 3 reasons I adore Gay Ribble. 1, she's one of the nicest, most positive person I've ever met. She's been in the studio multiple times. She walks in, it's like a beam of light. She's just so joyful. And when you're going through all that stress of the home inspection, of having to negotiate the price, of dealing with the purchaser, you want somebody that's going to carry you through that in a very positive way. Number 2, she cares about the values of this state. She supports the values of this radio station, and she gives back to support orphans in the state because she was an orphan herself. So she came out of that, found her forever. Her family has built a great company and wants to give back to orphans in the state of Colorado as well to help them. Number 3, she is a titan when it comes to selling a home. Listen to this. She gets her clients an average of $30,000 more than other real estate agents. Could you use an extra $30,000? How does she do it? She has a group of about 14,700 pre-approved buyers ready to go. Look, we all got friends, family members, and neighbors that are real estate agents, but they don't have that big of a database ready to find somebody to purchase your home. So she's got a big database, and as a result of that, she can sell homes 1.5 times faster than everybody else and at an average of $30,000 more. Why would you go with anybody else? Plus, she will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an absolutely fantastic company. She's great to work with. Give her a call. She'd be my first call, 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with the full phone lines. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in the UK, I'm John Beaver, and here are the top stories we're following. Joe Biden has announced he's dropping out of the 2024 presidential race and has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris instead. It follows weeks of pressure from senior party figures who've both privately and publicly called on Mr. Biden to stand down. The president took the decision whilst recovering from COVID at his beach house in Delaware. From there, Nick Harper reports.
A momentous bombshell announcement coming from here, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, with Joe Biden confirming he is stepping down and will not seek re-election. Some of his staff say they were blindsided, only being told about a minute before that statement was released to the world. And huge questions about what happens next and the path forward for the Democratic Party. And questions as to whether Joe Biden's insistence to stay in the race in recent weeks has done damage to the party, which will hurt it in November's election.
In response to President Biden's decision, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social that Mr. Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve and never was. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm John Beaver in the UK on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show on this historic broadcast, the day following the withdrawal of Joe Biden from the 2024 presidential race and the perceived elevation of Kamala Harris to the new top of the ticket. It's not locked in yet, but that seems to be where it's going. Let's talk to Joe in Arvada. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Jeff, Billy. You know, this is posturing. Donald Trump is going to blow it out. There's no doubt in my mind that it is sewed up. The question is, they're looking at 2028. See, nobody wants to step in here. You think Gavin Newsom?
Do you think she's the little sacrificial lamb they're trotting out there?
Yeah, she's pardon the gender improperness, but she's the fall guy. She is the one that's going to take the dumper.
Now, Joe, here's Vivek Ramaswamy just earlier yesterday. We've got to avoid making the mistake of thinking we're up against a candidate here. We're not. We're up against a machine. I just had a good conversation with President Trump. I think he's in the right place that you got to treat this seriously. Do you think you got to treat the machine seriously here?
Yes, for a number of reasons. One, there's the down ballot issue. Donald Trump won't have a resounding mandate without the Senate and the House. We've got to win all three, and the only way that we can win all three is a blowout. We have to ruin the Democrat Party. Maybe they can reimagine their own party.
Hey, Joe, can this be a blowout? And the only reason I'm asking this is in the latest polls, statistically, in most areas of the country, Biden and Trump were tied. They're within 3 to 4 percentage points of each other. So can you get to a blowout? Is Trump going to be that much further ahead than Kamala Harris? And if so, why?
Was that a deep state organized poll? I just wondered.
No, just in general, all the polls. I'm just saying in general. I mean, universally, they show that.
All the polls.
Well, universally.
All the communist polls. Come on, man.
Well, but
listen,
Joe, hang on a sec, Joe. Some of those
do your
polls,
own poll.
But Joe, some of those polls have said Trump's winning. So are those communist polls saying that Trump's winning? I mean, that's the point.
I don't listen to the polls.
I know, but I just asked you about it. I don't care if you listen to them or not.
I told you last week, Joe Biden was done.
Oh, yeah, you're right. No, I'm not asking you to listen to the polls or not. I'm just saying that if the polls are telling us that it was statistically tied, how much better is Trump going to be than Kamala? How much? Because you said a landslide. I'm just exploring that idea.
I do. I think it's a landslide. And I think, well, for one, Trump always exceeds the polls. Remember, he was going to be blown out by, just a second. Let me finish. He was going to be blown out by Hillary. Well, guess what? Hillary was up by 10 the day before, remember? It's going to be a Hillary blowout. Well, what happened? Reality happened.
Let's go back and look at this last primary cycle. Trump underperformed almost universally.
Trump wasn't running last primary cycle.
Hang on a sec. Yes, he was. He was running just last year when the Republicans were doing their primaries. He was running.
No, not in 2020.
No. I said the last cycle.
I mean 2022.
No, last primary cycle, which would have been last year coming up to this election.
You are aware. 2023.
Wait, Joe. You are aware there was a Republican primary for the candidacy for president. You're aware of that, right?
Oh, are you talking about
the primary
Donald Trump running in 2023?
Yeah, when Donald Trump ran for president in the nomination that he just received at the convention. You're aware in order to get those delegate votes, he ran in the primary. You're aware of that, right? That the GOP held a primary, right?
No kidding, Billy.
Good.
And he blew away the competition.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the polls. Your thing was that he always overperforms. Almost universally in every one of those primary polls, Donald Trump underperformed by 8 to 10 points.
Oh, that's because you had idiots like John Caldera voting for what's her face? I can't even remember what's her name anymore.
Haley?
No. Oh, yeah. Was it? Yeah, Nikki Haley. You're right.
But again, I just want to point out that you went back to 2016 and said that Donald Trump always overperforms, and that's not borne out by what we've seen in the past 12 months. That's not true.
I will tell you this. It was supposed to be Donald Trump just getting destroyed in 2020, and it was a lot closer than people know. The reality is Donald Trump won. Of course, you don't want to argue that with me. Anyway, here's the point.
Because Fox News has settled that for us.
Okay, but I want to move on to something that you guys have missed, and that is this. Kamala Harris would have Article 25 to Joe Biden long ago if she could. She can't. And the reason she can't is she has to get the majority of the cabinet to vote with her to get rid of Joe. They aren't. And the reason they aren't is the puppet master is calling the shots. And
Who's that?
That's why Obama is not backing Kamala. He was always not giving his thumbs up to the cabinet people that are really running the show, like Blinken and so forth, to get rid of Joe. Obama was saying, no, we're leaving him in because I'm running the show with Joe in charge. If Kamala's in, I'm not running the show anymore.
Joe,
so here's the
go ahead, real quick, wrap up.
Well, the point is that Obama doesn't want Biden to drop out all the way to the end because he's running the country. Everybody should know this. Obama is the one that's pulling the strings.
Joe, I appreciate the call.
That.
Joe
Yeah.
from Arvada.
And that's good. And I understand the idea of Obama, just like Mary said before, Obama pulling the strings and running the country. However, in order to get there, Obama would have also had to acquiesce and choose Kamala Harris. So the idea that Obama then wouldn't be pulling the strings for Kamala Harris belays your point about the fact that Obama was pulling the strings. Either he was or he wasn't, but who knows? And speaking of pulling the strings, I have got a fantastic medical team that is pulling the strings of my body, my pain, my suffering. Listen, I have an underdeveloped sense of fear. I did a lot of really dumb things to my body, and I am paying for it now. When I was younger, it was jump first, ask questions later. And now I have things that are severely wrong. Recently, I was over with the people at Balance Wellspace. Check them out, balancewellspace.com. I have had chronic back issues for over 2 decades. I had surgery more than 2 decades ago. They took a look at my lower back. My bottom 2 vertebrae are fusing together. I have no disc left. It made sense why at times I was walking around the house like I was 75 years old and why it was hard to get out of bed in the morning and why things would constantly ache. I would feel like I had a penknife stuck in my lower back most of the time. And I don't even want to start to you about the stuff that I've done to my right shoulder. The thing's just an absolute mess. The difference is Balance Wellspace. I want you to experience the difference they're making in my life. I don't have the pain that I had before. I'm able to do things with the dog, with the kids running around. I actually was kicking the soccer ball a couple of days ago with one of Jeff's kids, and there were some things I did there that was like, hey, that doesn't hurt anymore. It didn't have the same lingering pain. The difference that I found with Balance Wellspace is it's a one-stop shop. They cover absolutely everything. They can do chiropractor, neuropathy, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections. There's such a long list. I don't have time for it right now, plus amazing cutting-edge therapies as well. I'm talking to some people in the office, and what they're doing with their neuropathy is nothing short of remarkable. Elderly woman the other day said that she has more mobility and is able to move around like she hasn't in over 20 years. They are an entire team, and the advantage for you is it's a one-stop shop. All the doctors are there together. After your evaluation, they put together a custom plan specifically for you, and then it is one appointment, one stop, one day, one time. I'm going to be there later today, and inside of an hour, I'm going to get 5 separate treatments. It's efficiency on a level I've never experienced in healthcare, and I want you to experience it as well. Plus, when's the last time your team of medical professionals, the doctors that are working on you, all got together and discussed you? Yeah, I'm waiting. Exactly. It doesn't happen. It didn't happen for me either. And that's the other advantage I'm finding at Balance Wellspace is routinely they come back every 2 weeks and they reevaluate your care, where you are. And they've even changed some things with me based on things that were responding and things that aren't responding. And it's been nothing short of remarkable. I want you to experience the same new type of life, movement, and lack of pain that I am. You got neuropathy, you got to talk to Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess at Balance Wellspace. BalanceWellspace.com, BalanceWellspace.com. It's time for you to discover the amazing, what do they call it? They call it's transformative power of integrative medicine. That's a new one for me, integrative medicine. It's because everybody's there under one roof. They're all going to work together, and they're all going to work together to make you better.
Sounds great, Billy. All right, we'll continue with all the calls. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
talking Joe Biden's withdrawal from the presidential race. Jay, Denver, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Great. Good morning. Great show.
Thank you. What's on your mind?
So Kamala Harris has been on the border. It's a very famous Mexican restaurant on Highlands Ranch. Oh,
that's good.
She got some margaritas and queso.
Yeah, margaritas. They used to make a Chambord meltdown. I used to take clients there, get them all loaded, and sign contracts up.
That might help our
Jay,
country. A margarita might help. Jay from Denver, great. We'll be right back. It's 8 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS on this very historic broadcast. Get out of there. Personally, withdrawing yesterday morning from the 2024 presidential race and then giving the nod to Kamala Harris, saying, hey, she'd make a great president. And we've been taking phone calls and texts all morning discussing these developments. A whole lot to cover. Does that mean that Kamala Harris is the nominee? Is there going to be a fight at the convention? Who is she going to pick as her vice president? Is this going to be tough on Donald Trump? He's now the old man in the race. Or is she so unqualified that Donald Trump is easily going to win this? We've been taking a whole lot of calls and texts discussing that. In the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to get into this with Ted Trimpa, arguably the most successful and smartest Democrat strategist in Colorado. He's the principal and CEO of the Trimpa Group. If you don't like the Democrat direction of Colorado, well, he's the mind behind it all. Very smart, very bright, and we're honored to be able to have him on the show. So he'll be joining us in just a second. But let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning. I guess I know where I'm eating lunch today, on the border in Highlands Ranch. Man, Jay brought that, and I could taste everything there.
Yes,
Jay
very
brought
good.
That up. That was awesome. 63 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the mid-80s. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
Will half of the voters in the country get behind Kamala Harris? Dean of International Studies at DU, the University of Denver, Fritz Mayer says maybe.
Better chance of winning than most people think. Donald Trump is a deeply flawed candidate. Biden was not really able to exploit that. He's not very effective in the debate. Kamala Harris is tough, and she will be able to do that.
Exploit that. Exploit that. They tried to put the dude in prison. How much more can you exploit somebody than putting them in prison? My God.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been.
I can't take it. All right, Colorado Governor Polis called President Biden a true partner to Colorado, and that he's making the right choice for the future of America by stepping down. Polis says the U.S. can't afford another potential 4 years of a disastrous Trump presidency. Trump was incredible, though, on Saturday in Michigan in his first rally since the shooting.
Kamala, I call her Laughing Kamala. You ever watch her laugh? She's crazy. You know, you can tell a lot by her laugh. No, she's crazy. She's nuts. She's not as crazy as Nancy Pelosi, crazy dancer.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Nothing else is going to change. Joe Biden has been the figurehead for people behind the scenes who have been calling the shots. The same will happen if Kamala Harris is elected president or other Democrats. The fact is we've got unelected power elite in Washington coming from the military-industrial complex, national security state, working with their friends in the big industrial propaganda media. They all just want to stay in power. So they don't really actually care at all about Joe Biden. No matter how many crocodile tears they shed, they're going to look for the best horse that they think will help them win and back that person.
Hey, let's not forget, Trump was shot only 8 days ago, and we've got to get to the bottom of this. The House Oversight Committee will hopefully grill Secret Service Director Kim Cheadle today. Michael Balboni, former New York Homeland Security head, on Fox News.
If someone comes out of the blue, is on nobody's radar screen, and then does these things, which seems to indicate some tradecraft. The thing about having somebody who just comes out of the blue is typically they're complete amateurs and they have no tradecraft whatsoever. But this guy looks like he's got pre-operational surveillance with a drone, and now doesn't have any fingerprints on or profile on social media, and is able to come in and almost take out the president. Boy, a lot of questions starting to emanate from this guy's behavior.
How deep does this go? The Trump team and conservatives know they may try it again if they have a chance. An apartment intruder is dead after he was shot by the person living there Sunday morning. It happened at an apartment building along East Evans, where the tenant reportedly surprised the intruder when he arrived home and then shot him. The suspect was pronounced dead at the scene, and the Denver District Attorney's Office will determine if any charges will be filed. A police officer and a driver were both shot following a rollover crash in Fort Collins on Sunday. The driver climbed out of the wrecked car and exchanged gunfire with officers before running into a cemetery. SWAT was called to the scene, and then the suspect was arrested and taken to a hospital. The officer is expected to recover from his injuries. No word on the suspect.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Xander Schauffele.
Schauffele wins the British Open, his second major of the year. Todd Helton officially enshrined into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
2-2 on the ground, softly hit. Chapman charges, Chapman got him! And the Giants find a way to get a win.
Over the Rockies, 3-2. The Red Sox in town tonight at 6:40 at Coors Field. 58 in Louisville, 60 in Lone Tree, 63 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on another historic Monday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 7-10 5-day forecast. For most of the week, it's going to be warm and it's going to be hazy. Temperatures today, mid-80s, isolated afternoon and evening thunderstorms, but not many. Lows tonight, low 60s. Hazy sunshine and hot, likely dry. Low 90s Tuesday, low to mid-90s Wednesday, mid to upper 90s Thursday. Friday and Saturday, thunderstorms return. Weather sponsored by Branch Planning. Some income annuities are paying 25 to 45% more than last year. Get a free retirement review by calling Branch Planning today at 720-651-9800. Find out more at branchplanning.com. Meteorologist
Well, he's the
Don Day
smartest man in Colorado
KNUS Weather Center.
politics. The brain, Ted Trimpa. He's the principal and CEO of the Trimpa Group. And I am so grateful that he's on our show. We have different political positions, and I come from the conservative side, he comes from the liberal side, but I have tremendous respect for Ted Trimpa and his ability to build coalitions and build campaigns and win in the state of Colorado. Ted, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Oh, happy to, Jeff. Anytime for you.
Well, let's talk about what happened yesterday. Let's give your initial thoughts when you saw the resignation. Well, it's not really the resignation. He just step back from being the nominee from Joe Biden from the Democrat ticket this year. What were your thoughts?
Well, first, there is a God, and thank God he spoke. Second, I think that, that old fable that we read when we were young, Emperor has no clothes, which I never quite understood what that meant until I just experienced the last, 6 to 8 months. I think they woke up and realized, oh my God, the guy has no clothes. It was about time, and thank God it finally happened. I mean, after that debate performance, it's hard to argue that we could carry forward and everything had to be scripted. He's one of the most successful presidents since LBJ. Policies that I know you disagree with, but for me, when I look at it, it's like, holy crap. And I say the same thing for Trump. He was one of the most successful conservative presidents in the 3.5 years he did work. So, two very impactful presidents, but it's time for us age-wise to move on, I think.
Now, Politico is reporting that it was really an effort from the big three, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and Hakeem Jeffries, to get him out. They wanted to be nice initially, but he didn't seem to understand what was happening, get it. And then they started to really kind of turn the screws on him. Was that what happened from your understanding?
Well, I think we've got to remember the perspective of who President Biden is. This is someone who was elected to the United States Senate when, I can remember, in his 30s. It was less than that, but extraordinarily young. And he spent most of his political life being told, no, you can't do this. How is this really going to work? He messed up the 1988 presidential run by plagiarizing Neil Kinnock. He should have known better. So you have someone who's stubborn. And you look at the nature of his childhood and how he grew up. He's, Scranton Joe, or whatever the term we're supposed to use. So this was a situation where you're not going to look at him and say, listen, Mr. President, this is what you have to do. I think it took time for them to create the environment where it's, listen, this is how it's affecting down ballot Democrats. This is, these are what your numbers are in these particular states that matter for us in order for you to win. We need to think about you doing something for the sake of the party and the goodness of the country. So basically you flip, not say the argument, but you flip the pitch. And I think it took some time in order for them to do that. I mean, you take a look at the fact it was issued as a statement. The campaign manager didn't know. No one within the inner circle, other than I think Steve Ricchetti and maybe the chief of staff, knew. So to me, that speaks volumes about how this played out. So I'm not for sure it was necessarily, quote, the big three. I just think it was a collection of this over time. I think some governors had some impact as well.
Now, Ted Trimpa, principal and CEO of the Trimpa Group here in Colorado, I was a little impressed to see that all the leaders of the Democrat Party here in Colorado, those statewide elected, those elected to Congress and party leadership, within 8 hours were all behind Kamala Harris. Talk to us from a Democrat perspective on why it's important to coalesce around her. Has she locked up the nomination? And do you think she's going to be a worthy opponent to Donald Trump?
Well, first of all, strategically, this is what you have to do. I mean, the last thing we want is a food fight. Because in food fights, somebody gets messy. Someone's going to end up with sour cream on their face. And, we need to go into this convention with something that's pretty, not fait accompli, but close to that. And so we needed to rally around the vice president. And the second thing is, campaign finance. I mean, her name's on that committee too. There was a question as to what they could do with that money if the candidate were someone that's not one of the two of them. So it doesn't surprise me that everyone's stepping up in order to endorse Kamala. Now, do I think she can be competitive? I do. Look at her numbers in battleground states. She's competitive. In some places, she's doing better than President Biden, and we now have the contrast of, someone who's going to be over 80 during his term with someone who's going to be barely in her low 60s. I mean, that says something.
We're talking about Kamala Harris and the idea of her rising up to become the new presidential top of the ticket for the Democrat Party. Talk to me about her strengths. What does she bring? So, Ted, from a conservative perspective, I look at her and I go, I have a hard time coming to terms with what her accomplishments are like, right? What has she achieved in all of her years? I know she's been elected to office, but that seems to be what she's been able to achieve, what have been her big accomplishments, and what are those going to be to be a challenge to Donald Trump?
Well, let's start with, I'm pretty sure you're having, heart palpitations looking at the fact that Kamala Harris is going to be the candidate for president and some of the things that she's advocated in the past, because you are a true blue conservative. And the thing about you, Jeff, and something I've always respected, you're really clear about it. You're really direct about it. This is where I stand. And you don't mince words. In terms of her electability and what she's done, let's keep in mind, she has been a crime fighter. And I know you're going to laugh and say, oh, no, the bail was her problem. But it was not. You take a look at what she did when she was AG. You take a look at what she did when she was San Francisco DA. And, the legislative accomplishments of Joe Biden, which, again, were more of any Democratic president since LBJ in their first term. And, she's part of that. I mean, she gets credit for that. And so I think she comes out of the gate really strong.
Let's talk about how she's going to attack Donald Trump. What do you think her focus is going to be in attacking Trump?
Well, I think the first one she does is she's like, Daddy, so how are you? I'm kind of joking on that, but he's old enough to be her dad.
Yeah.
I think you come out of the gate and say, look, the contrast is really clear. I'm for reproductive rights. He's not. You can't let him escape this thing by saying, oh, we're going to turn it back to states, because what you do when you do that. You basically take, the principle of Roe away from a number of people. You're having someone who says, gee whiz, we shouldn't have, an electric vehicle or, a green economy, not necessarily the AOC, but really truly realizing that we need energy evolution over time. You have someone who's willing to invest public dollars into public infrastructure, which, by the way, is kind of the idea around government. We don't have private highways everywhere. Thank to God, for public entities, we keep airplanes from crashing in the middle of the air. And you have someone who recognizes the value of that. You also have somebody who recognizes the value of making sure that taxation should be fair. And we don't have that today. And I think that's something that she'll have an ability to get that message across. And, the other thing is, think of the number of jobs that have been created in the last 3.5 years, how inflation has come down. Those are a lot of things that she can say, listen, our policies are going to continue with that. So as you see this improvement that we've had over the last 2 years, I will continue that and improve upon it.
Some of the arguments being made by people that called in earlier was that maybe she's just a sacrificial lamb. Democrats have gotten to a point where they don't think they can defeat Trump. They tried to put him in prison. They tried to bankrupt him. He survived an assassination attempt. He is kind of unstoppable at this point. So nobody wants this job, and they're going to focus on 2028. Do you think that's the case?
I don't know if I'd necessarily frame it that way. I do think that there is a certain level of, other individuals out there, particularly governors, who I think would make great presidents, that are saying, look, it's not my time. For us to have that food fight and the sour cream being thrown around isn't worth it. We risk too much. We have a better chance of winning with having the vice president now at the top of the ticket. I don't think it's a sacrificial lamb. I think it's understanding of how politics works and how power works. Of course, I'm sure there are a lot of these folks that are lining up or looking at, well, if she loses, then I can run in 4 years and she's now out of the way. I think it's more a political calculation that's going on rather than, let's just put her up because she's the sacrificial lamb.
Now, Ted Trimpa, I've got a question for you just to follow up on that real quickly. Joe Manchin has said he wants to throw his hat in the ring as far as a primary. For me, I think Manchin is just struggling with irrelevancy. Nobody cares what Joe Manchin wants, the Democrat Party. Do you think there is going to be any credible challenge for Harris, or will the party coalesce behind her as the nominee?
Well, let's first of all address Joe Manchin and his toying with this. My attitude around that is, first of all, this is all no labels trying to stir the pot up again. And we've kind of had enough of no labels stirring up the pot.
Yeah.
My second one to Joe Manchin is, okay, you're sitting down. Why don't you do your business and flush the toilet? Because you've been sitting there so long, your legs are asleep.
That's good.
Ted Trimpa, principal. Go ahead, please.
Oh, no. And then the third is he's not going to mount a credible threat. And, I'd love to see him try to get the number of delegates he would need in order to get the nomination with this Democratic Party delegate crew that's coming in. Good luck.
Yeah. It'll be an embarrassment for him. It really will be.
Ted Trimpa, principal and CEO of the Trimpa Group. He's a Democrat strategist in Colorado. I think he's the smartest man in Colorado politics. Ted, who's the VP pick going to be?
Oh, this is a tough one. I think to be really blunt, and I'm known for being blunt, I think that we got to be careful that it's not someone that'll upstage her. So I think you're going to see candidates that weren't necessarily in the running or could have been in the running, but would have considered not necessarily second tier, but kind of in an outer circle. This has all been reported. So, Mark Kelly's been reported, Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky's been reported, Governor Roy Cooper of North Carolina has been reported. Of course, I'm forgetting the fourth now. That's my fault for drinking too much coffee. I would really watch Andy Beshear and Roy Cooper because it brings something from the South. They're calm. They have kind of a little bit of an accent. It's not going to seem so urban and so Californian. And they're great elected officials, public servants. And, they're of a style and of a personality that won't upstage her.
Now, that's interesting because in the back of my head the entire time, Ted, I'm thinking, is Ted going to choose a white guy? Ted's going to choose a white guy. Because that's my conclusion is that it has to be a white guy.
Oh yeah, hands down.
No.
You don't do that. You're asking for more problems than you need. Oh, the other one is Josh Shapiro. Josh Shapiro should be running for president.
Yeah, he should.
But there's an issue there, and I don't mean this in a bad way. And I'm sure you're going to get phone calls from it, and I know I'll get phone calls from it. I think at this point, putting a Jew on the ticket With Kamala, this is kind of similar to what happened with Kennedy and Catholics. It's totally unfair. It shouldn't be happening. The level of anti-Semitism right now is, higher than it's probably ever been, I know, in my lifetime. And I am a strong advocate for Israel. I'm a right-winger on it, but I also think we have to be smart about who we put on the ticket.
Yeah, I think you're right that strategically, unfortunately, it doesn't make any sense. And that should be a black mark for the Democrat Party, in my opinion. Now, I want you to tell me why both myself and Tony, our liberal caller here on the Jeff and Bill Show, are wrong, because both of us have an outside of the box choice, something that would take a lot of intestinal fortitude for the Democrats to make these choices. But they could actually shore up some possible electorate support in ways in which Kamala's weak. Here are the two. I'll talk about Tony's choice, my choice, and then you got to tell us why we're both wrong. Tony's choice, he likes Julian Castro. He thinks the immigration Texas helps. For me, I like Whitmer. I don't think she'll run. I don't think there's a chance in hell, but I think an all-female team would allow a narrative reset and would take away some of the power of the immigration attack, because they could foment a abortion. It would really focus and crystallize that as the issue inside of this election cycle. Okay, now why are Tony and I wrong?
Bill, okay, so let's go with Bill. Let's go with yours first.
Yeah.
Whitmer's not going to do this, given the fact that she would be one of, if not the leading candidate 4 years from now. And I still think there's a real risk putting two women on the ticket. If you're going to put two women on the ticket, it definitely would be her. But I think just her natural tendency and personality, she's going to upstage the vice president.
Yeah.
And on Castro, I get the argument, the immigration argument, because Democrats are extraordinarily weak. We've handled that situation in probably the worst way possible. But my response to Castro is snore. It's like listening to Pete Buttigieg. If I want to go to sleep, those are the people that I turn on.
Interesting. That's interesting that they don't have the energy, they don't have the delivery on that side. That's interesting. And I can get to that, because I think that was part of why Doug Burgum wasn't an exciting VP choice for Trump, because he is beige wallpaper. While he's very intelligent, God, he's boring.
Billy, what do you think Mike Pence was?
Oh, absolutely. But Mike Pence was there Mike Pence was to give Donald Trump the evangelical.
I know that, but he wasn't out there leading a marching band.
Oh, no, not at all. But at least Pence had done what we do. He'd been a top choice.
And Mike Pence brought something to Trump at that point in time they didn't have, and that was morality. That true connection with the evangelical community.
High five.
President Trump was running around grabbing the private parts of women and bragging about it, and then paying off a stripper for sex that he had. There needed to be some morality injected into that ticket. And I tell you, Mike Pence is one of the finest Americans out there. I probably disagree with him on 99% of the things.
Yeah.
But I can sure as hell tell you this: if he had his finger on the button, I would go to bed at night, every night, totally fine.
Yeah.
Who do you think foils J.D. Vance best as a potential vice presidential pick for Kamala Harris?
Cooper.
Really?
Roy Cooper.
Cooper.
Really?
Roy Cooper.
That was who Steve brought up. Wow.
That's interesting. Now, I want to explore that a little bit about why you think Cooper does that, because I'm of the mind that J.D. Vance, again, if the Democrats do this right, J.D. Vance becomes a liability, not an asset for the Trump campaign, because they picked Vance to go against the Biden-Harris ticket, not the Harris mystery ticket. And so J.D., if they do it right, could become a liability. But how does Cooper make J.D. a liability?
Well, let's start with the Vance advantage. I always thought Trump was going to pick Vance. Vance is young. He's energetic. He can talk in a way that appeals to a lot of America. And he's super, super smart on his feet. I don't think they necessarily picked him in order to go up against Kamala. I think they picked him in case Biden dropped out. They would have somebody that was also useful. In terms of Cooper, we've got to keep in mind where Cooper comes from. He's governor of North Carolina. Let me repeat that. North Carolina. This is a place where they have supermajorities in the state legislature that he's been fighting for a long time. And I tell you, somebody that can fight that conservative of a supermajority and still get things done really says something. And he's also smart on his feet, but he's smooth. And I have to disclose, he's a personal friend, and I met him back when he was AG, and on issues that I care about, he's been very, very strong. But I think he would be a smart choice.
That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, and that's what Steve brought up. And to this point, Ted Trimpa, what we've seen this morning on our show since the minute we turned on the microphone at 6 a.m., full phone lines, primarily Democrats excited. And one of the things that Billy and I were talking about is that it seems like for the first time in at least 4 years, Democrats are thinking creatively about what the future of their party is going to look like. They were going to kind of have to hold this all in until the day after the election, whether Biden won or lost. But now there's this kind of unleashing of Democrat potential and energy and excitement. Are you sensing that as well?
Oh, yeah, of course, because this is the first time in, a half a dozen years we hadn't had to carry around oxygen tanks.
And it's the first time in 48 years we haven't had a Clinton, a Bush, or a Biden on the ticket.
Oh, and, from my perspective, that's great. It's time to move on. Now, I'm a big Obama guy. I think Obama is one of the best presidents we've ever had. He's definitely one of the best orators we've ever had. But, we need to move on. At some point, we need to allow the people, we can't make this assumption that all young people just aren't good enough. That, we got to pick the people that have been around forever. That just isn't the case. We have a great number of young leaders in both parties. And we need to start, this applies to a lot of folks. We need to start getting out of the way and letting them move up. You think about a young leader like Jared Polis. He's, dynamic. He gets stuff done. And I know you're going to laugh when I say dynamic, but he really is. And he knows how to work across the aisle. He knows how to work with really lefty Democrats. There's a whole slew of people like him. And we need to start getting out of the way to let these younger, effective public servants, work their way up.
Ted, you make a great example there. I call it the Uber test. I think that American politics, we should start implementing the Uber test. If the person you're voting for would show up your Uber driver and you're not going to get in the car, don't vote for him. Just don't do that. Don't do that.
Ted, I got a few more questions. So Jared Polis is going to finish his term as governor in 2026. Which would then give him 2 years to run for president. Do you anticipate him doing that to run in 2028? I guess that would require Kamala Harris not winning, right? Because then she would be going for a second term in 2028. And then here's actually a bigger question. We've had Colorado Democrats run for president before, Michael Bennet, John Hickenlooper, and they don't seem to translate to the national level. Why is it that Colorado statewide Democrats don't seem to be able to get a foothold in a national kind of Democrat primary for president?
Well, first off, I would push back a little bit on, Colorado can't play on the national stage. We've had a number of United States senators from both parties, whether that's Hank Brown, I'd even say, Cory Gardner, but then also Tim Wirth. We've had a lot of Democratic senators, and our current Democratic senators are very good and great at being senators and would have been great at being president. But, sometimes it's not your time. And that has nothing to do, from where you are. It's just a matter of what the time is, and does, your personality and the way you see it and the way you see policies fit with where in that frame of time the country is. And I just don't think that they matched that at that time. Now, there was a second part to that question, Jeff, that I am forgetting.
Well, let's talk about Jared Polis. Is he going to run for president, you think, in 2028?
Jared, this is his decision. Jared will make that decision. From my perspective, I think he would be a great president. From my perspective, if Kamala were to lose, he would be where I'd be in terms of who I would support for president, because, he has the experience, he has the ability, he has the vision. And I know everybody's like, oh my God, could he blow more, sunshine up somebody's backside, or gargle, in between someone's legs. But I'm a huge fan of Jared, and everybody, all your listeners know that.
Ted, do you think Donald Trump and Kamala Harris will debate?
I hope so, my Lord. I mean, it's the nature of democracy. I think that not having debates just because you think you have a strategic advantage is unfair to the American people, because what this is about is presenting people and having them present themselves to the folks that are going to be electing them in a taxpayer-paid election. And so, we're paying for it. We want to know, who you are and what you're going to do and how you're going to stand up for this country. And what better way to get that information than from a debate? A scripted TV ad doesn't give you anything but a scripted TV ad.
Yeah, I like that, because I think that if Kamala's smart, she will push hard for a debate using many of the lines that Donald Trump's campaign used as well. And I'm of the belief that Trump does not want to debate. I know there is this idea that he performs well in debates. He's not a very good debater, objectively. And Kamala, I don't know how good she is or how bad she is. I haven't paid enough attention to her career.
Performance, her performance the first time around. I mean, I don't know if you'd necessarily grade it in the upper part. We have got to be honest with ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
I do think the one thing that has to happen is they continue the format of turning off the other person's mic when the other person is answering. I think it's really important for that, because I think, first of all, one, that put President Trump, into a place where he had to be serious about the debate rather than about the debate tactics. And I think that was important for us. We got to hear Donald Trump as this is how he'd be president in that debate against Biden. And I have to tell you, I disagree with his policies, but I personally was impressed about how he handled it. That is the side of Donald Trump that I think the country needs to see, and then they need to decide, is that who I want to be president?
Yeah, and I think the other advantage the Harris campaign could have if the Trump campaign says no debate, then they just immediately, it's not going to be a fair commentary, but immediately you go, he's afraid of a girl. That's immediately what you do. And you go as low as you possibly can. You don't insult, but that's exactly what you do.
Oh my God, I didn't think about that. And that would so get under his skin.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That'd be good. Well, Ted Trimpa, really appreciate you taking time to join us. He's the principal and CEO of the Trimpa Group. He's a Democrat strategist here in Colorado, and I think one of the smartest guys. And for him to take time and come over and talk with a 710K US listener base, I love that. And it's what makes this show unique. And I appreciate when we have both sides being able to talk through all this.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I appreciate you having me here. I really appreciate both of you, Jeff and Billy. You guys have been terrific towards me, and I really appreciate what you've done with the show.
Well, we hope you'll come back.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of developments between now and November. We'll lean on you to guide us through all this from the Democrat perspective. Again, Ted Trimpa, CEO of the Trimpa Group. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in the UK, I'm John Beaver, and here are the top stories we're following. Joe Biden has announced he's dropping out of the 2024 presidential race and has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris instead. It follows weeks of pressure from senior party figures who've both privately and publicly called on Mr. Biden to stand down. There's been widespread international reaction to the news. Japan and South Korea are responding to the imminent change of leadership in the White House by reaffirming their commitment to the United States. Meanwhile, commentators in China are calling Joe Biden's decision desperate but pragmatic. From Tokyo, Chris Gilbert reports.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida says that ties with the US are the cornerstone of Japan's security policies, and he's watching developments closely. His counterpart in South Korea, President Yoon Suk-yeol, says that there will be bipartisan support in his country for an alliance with the US, irregardless of who is in the Oval Office. Chinese media is speculating on how Joe Biden dropping out of the race is going to affect the outcome of the US election, calling the move pragmatic but desperate. Commentators in China's tabloid The Global Times says it may be absolutely crucial for the Democratic Party's hopes of keeping the White House.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm John Beaver in the UK on Salem News Channel.
Norma just texted in, time to give Ted's partner some conservative views to diminish Ted's liberal agenda. So if you don't know, Ted Trimpa's partner is Arash, and he is one of the producers of Gutfeld on Fox.
Yeah,
so they got this unique relationship because I don't know anybody else that's when you both work in politics.
Yeah,
right?
I know some that have different politics for the couple, but I don't know two that work. Yeah,
because you end up with the Kellyanne George Conway issue, where at a certain point, because if you're working in politics, it's core to you.
Yeah.
Right. And you are actually driving an agenda. You want to change this country as part of your heart. And then to be in a relationship, that's always been unique. But yeah, so Norma's point, Arash, who's incredibly talented, is the producer of Gutfeld, which now is pulling in more viewers than like Jimmy Fallon and the rest of them.
Yeah.
Too.
You know what the problem is?
Hat tip to
we love to get Arash on. The problem is he's in New York and he works late.
That's right. That's right.
So while we're up a little bit later than he normally is, I mean, it's difficult to say, hey, want to get up really early in the morning with us? And even though you did a late night show last night, that's the toughest part. That is the biggest hurdle to get over.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. You guys have been incredibly patient. Let's go to Brian in Colorado. Brian, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning. Do we have you, Brian?
You should be there.
All right.
This is Brian.
Go ahead, Brian.
You got? Yeah, I just wanted to mention Kamala. It's funny that all the Democrats are saying that she's qualified, but they can't list any specific qualifications that she's done. They keep saying, well, she pushed Democrat agenda. Okay, what in what way? Oh, she was the attorney general for California, one of the biggest, but California's in shambles as far as crime, homelessness. So there's no specific things that this lady's ever done. And we have to remember when she ran in the primary, she failed to get more than 3% of the vote from her own party. And the only reason they picked her is because she was an African-American Black woman. And so now they're stuck with her. The cackle alone is enough to not vote for her. But again, her policies, she was the border czar, showed up once, nothing happened. So here we are with the Democrats, again, trying to tell us that she's qualified with no qualifications. I think this is a wash. Trump's going to win, but if he doesn't step in it, he will win. And I don't know, there's no vice president that's going to.
Do you think they'll debate, charge. Brian? Do you think they'll debate?
They have to. If they don't debate, but again, Trump's going to be doing rallies, and Kamala's not going to do a rally. So they're going to try to get someone.
She is, Brian. She'll do rallies.
Maybe, but who's going to show up? Who's going to show up?
I don't
like
see.
Tens of thousands of people aren't going to show up like Trump. So she'll have a rally with 5,000 people there, and they'll show us. The media will throw cover and
Brian,
show
I
a
understand
shot
that. Brian, I understand that, but we don't pick presidents based on the size of the crowd that they draw. Because if we did, we'd have President Taylor Swift. So the idea of crowd size doesn't necessarily translate into votes, and that's kind of an issue. And I understand the critique of Kamala. What has she done? But if we look at governance and things like that, prior to Trump in the White House, he hadn't done anything. JD Vance is barely into his second year of one Senate term. So again, you could turn around and say, but what have they done? So just be careful with that critique of saying Kamala hasn't accomplished anything when she was elected DA, elected Attorney General, and elected to Senate, and served longer than JD Vance is. Just based on those, she has a longer, better resume for governance than either of the two on the Republican side.
Kamala is brilliant in foreign policy. Here we go.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
Yeah. Again, the critique is...
Was she talking to a kindergarten class?
Well, I know that the critique is great, except for the fact that the standard bearer for the Republican Party doesn't understand how magnets work. That's the problem.
Oh, come on, Billy.
No.
The whataboutism.
No, it's not. Hang on a sec. It's not a whataboutism. What the idea is, if you're going to critique Kamala the candidate that is now running for the Democrat nomination, and you're going to critique her for not being smart enough about the world and what's going on, then you have to examine the other candidate. Because if the critique is just she doesn't know, but our guy doesn't know as well, it doesn't work. That's the issue. That's the problem that you're going to have with this.
She sounded like she was
The
talking to
problem
a
is
kindergarten
Trump
class.
has an actual record, guys. Like,
Yeah.
I have a list of things that we were better off 4 years ago with Trump policies. We screenshotted all the things of inflation, interest rates, gas prices, unemployment for African Americans and for
that's actually worse.
Hispanics.
That's worse under Trump. Biden
Trump had the lowest unemployment
not until
since World War II.
Not after the end of 2023. The numbers for Biden are actually higher.
Before COVID.
No,
I'm
but
saying.
it doesn't matter though.
Before COVID.
No, but
Trump
that doesn't.
had
Hang
the
on a sec.
lowest unemployment ever.
But you know, Brian, that time has continued to exist post-COVID, and post-COVID, Biden has done better in that statistic. The percentage of both job growth, wage growth, and employment for Hispanics and blacks are better under Biden at this point than they were under Trump. That's going to be a problem. The other problem is if you're going to
COVID, Billy, the numbers are screwed. And when everybody's
Then you
unemployed,
can't- hang on, then you
and
can't-
then all of a sudden they get employed again, and you're taking credit for that?
No.
Because COVID's over?
No, the
Trump
line. Hang on a sec,
improved
Brian.
the numbers prior to COVID.
You're missing my point. Where
So
the
were you.
numbers were prior to COVID, where that number is that you're giving Trump credit for, the number now is higher. That's it.
Of what? People employed?
Of employment, of total employment, of minority employment, and of wage growth. All three of those are higher now.
No, it isn't.
Yes,
Billy.
it is. Yes, it is, sir. Go and check. It is. It is higher now.
I have checked.
Okay.
It's not.
You're wrong. Yes, it is.
Under the economy,
Most of the employment growth that has taken place under Biden is actually for illegal immigrants, not for legal Americans.
Right. Not for minorities that are
how many
here
illegals
in
are
this
employed?
country.
How many illegals are
You
employed?
know,
then?
millions.
How do we know?
Millions.
How do we know?
That's how they judge the job employment stuff.
No, but
I
how
don't
do you know? How do you know?
I'm just telling you the reports, man.
Oh, so the report says that millions of illegals are employed.
Yes,
and that's the reason.
millions of illegals. A lot of the job
What's the
growth under
percentage?
Biden has gone to illegal
And the
immigrants.
percentage of that is what?
I don't know.
Oh,
Percentage of what?
The percentage of the
Why are you?
illegals.
But you're criticizing. We make a statement, and you won't accept. Like you're trying to dismiss the statement
I'm not
by
certain-
pointing at like bizarre aspects that aren't these statements.
I'm not certain that. I'm not.
Are
certain
you saying
you're-
that illegal immigrants are not employed in America? I don't.
No, what I'm saying is, how do you count them? I'm curious about how you're counting them in the employment numbers. That's what I'm curious about. I'm going to have to go look at the numbers you're looking at, and try to figure out how you're counting the illegal employment. That would be curious to me, because you'd assume that you normally can't employ.
And Billy,
many
what I'm
illegals.
trying to figure out, Billy, is do you want Kamala to be the president, or do you want Trump to be the president? Because that's the choice. Which do you want? Because I'm trying to figure out if you love America, because you're defending Kamala and you're putting down Trump every bit of the way, and it's pretty clear which party loves America and which party doesn't.
Here's the thing,
So I'm
Brian.
trying to figure out where you are, Billy.
Here's the
are
Brian.
you are
The
you
issue-
pro-Democrat?
Here's the issue, Brian. You know very well that I'm unaffiliated. I hate both parties. I would burn them both down today. Give me the kerosene and the matches. I'll do it in front of a camera. I would happily burn them down. I dislike both of them deeply. What I also disagree with, though, is your premise that one party loves America, one party hates America. That's just like when Republicans now say, well, he's a good patriot. It's just like in Goodfellas. Basically, you're just saying he's part of the mob. You're saying he's part of the cult. You're saying that he's a MAGA person. When they're a patriot, you're trying to absorb that word as if only one group or one political party owns it. And so I would disagree with you. I would submit that Ted Trimpa, who was just on with us, does love America. He just looks at it as a different view than what you're looking at, the filter inside of it. So the idea that you're asking me whether I love America, I reject the premise of your question, because the answer to you can only be determined based on political party affiliation. And I think that's incorrect.
So who are you going to vote for, Billy?
why does it matter to you, and why do I have to discuss it on the air? And it may not be necessary to discuss on the air because we have something else planned, but that's later on down the road, man.
We're way up against the break. Brian, I appreciate the call. We're getting on a lot of text messages. I will tweet it out. Center for Immigration Studies, most employment growth since pandemic has gone to immigrants. Labor force participation for prime age U.S. born men remains at historic lows.
Wait, question.
We'll get into that.
Question. Did you just say immigrants?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just was curious because you're missing a word there that you were talking about earlier.
Well,
Thanks.
we can
We'll
get
talk about it
into
later.
the article here.
Cool.
All right, we'll cover this more. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
I'm going to press you on this, Billy. Only 971,000 more Americans were employed between May of 2024 compared to May of 2019. This idea that the economy has gotten all better and everything's doing great, most of those jobs have gone to illegal immigrants.
What's the percentage of the illegal immigration?
We don't know.
Immigrants in the
We don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know.
It's about
but
5%.
Most of the job growth has gone to immigrants, and most of the immigrants are illegal.
We know
it's logic, Billy.
No, most of the immigrants aren't illegal because as soon as they declare asylum, they're no longer illegal. We've talked about this.
There's tens of millions of illegal immigrants in this country, and you guys are claiming that somehow the economy's getting better.
You guys,
when the job's going to y'all or to them. This is the Jeff and Bill Show. We'll be back.
You guys.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Now, there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts, text message your favorite local hosts, call the show, get the latest headlines, and enter contests to win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
It's 9 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe. bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. It's 68 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the mid-80s. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Are ISIS terrorists and Al-Qaeda terrorists and international groups and terrorists more capable than a 20-year-old in pulling off their mass shooting or an assassination of Donald Trump?
Sure, again, there was clearly a breakdown and a failure that day.
The House Oversight Committee grilling Secret Service Director Kim Cheadle right now, just 8 days after the assassination attempt of former President Trump in Pennsylvania.
Well, first, there is a God. Second, I think that, that old fable that we read when we were young, Emperor has no clothes, which I never quite understood what that meant until I just experienced the last, 6 to 8 months.
Ted Trimpa, CEO of Trimpa Group, on with Jeff and Bill last hour. He's a Coloradan on the left and evaluated the news of President Biden stepping aside yesterday, opening the door for one of the deepest of thinkers, Kamala Harris.
You take a look at what she did when she was AG. You take a look at what she did when she was San Francisco DA. And the legislative accomplishments of Joe Biden, which again were more of any Democratic president since LBJ in their first term. And, she's part of that. I mean, she gets credit for that. And so I think she comes out of the gate really strong.
I really believe Trimpa can convince people that I'm skinny and 175 pounds. He's awesome. True. Man, I want him to sell everything for me. Dean of International Studies at DU, Fritz Mayer, says, hey, don't overlook her.
Better chance of winning than most people think. Donald Trump is a deeply flawed candidate. Biden was not really able to exploit that. He's not very effective in the debate. Kamala Harris is tough, and she will be able to do that.
Okay, so how about the VP? Trimpa says the Democrats won't go with Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania.
I think at this point, putting a Jew on the ticket, with Kamala, this is kind of similar to what happened with Kennedy and Catholics. It's totally unfair. It shouldn't be happening. The level of anti-Semitism right now is, higher than
Paging Blake. Paging. That's the robot, Ted Trimpa.
Oh, that's happened in weeks. I got to talk to him off air.
All right, we'll continue with Blake as soon as we can reconnect with him. Coming up here in Blake.
Hey, I don't know what happened. We just got to go. We like the good old Daves, so we have to do that.
With all the tech stuff that happens these days, like everyone's banks and airlines going down last week, you just never know.
Yeah, man. Thank God we're not up in the air, right? We're just on the air. We're not up in the air.
Do you remember Die Hard 2? They predicted all of it. They they could hack the computers.
You're right. I remember that horrible movie. Absolutely. Okay, let's see. I think I was at Polis, maybe. Governor Polis called President Biden true partner to Colorado, and that he's making the right choice for the future of America by stepping down. Van Jones, love Van Jones. He needs to be in a daytime soap opera. If there are soap operas still going on, I have no idea. All right, let's see. This dude is incredible.
I love Joe Biden. You have people on both sides of the fight in the party who are crying right now, who can't believe it right now. This is not a normal time, y'all. This isn't just politics. This is a moment in time to honor someone who for 50 years put this country first and sacrificed and sacrificed and sacrificed and sacrificed and sacrificed. And today he's sacrificed again.
And he sacrificed our southern border, our safety, our way of life, our kids, our cities, our schools, our economy.
What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been.
All right, so we'll see.
Sounds
what
like a horror movie. It sounds
does.
like,
It
and you
is a-
add the reverb in there, and
Right.
it just goes. Oh my goodness!
It is a nightmare.
No way she wins. No way.
There's no way, but we gotta fight like she's JFK or
Yep.
something. You know. All right. Jefferson County investigators say 13-year-old Maya Pozas took her mother's car Saturday night, and it was later found crashed along Vine Street. Pozas hasn't been seen or heard from since then. She's described as 5'3", weighs about 135 pounds, has brown hair and brown eyes, and was last seen wearing black shorts and a black tube top. Anyone with information on her whereabouts is urged to contact law enforcement. Rockies Todd Helton officially enshrined into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Congratulations to him.
2-2 on the ground, softly hit. Chapman charges. Chapman got him. And the Giants find a way to get a win.
Over the Rockies 3-2. Red Sox in town tonight at 6:40, first pitch.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Xander Schauffele.
Schauffele wins the British Open and his second major of the year. 64 in Lafayette, 66 in Highlands Ranch, 68 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue with the Power Hour coming up right now. It is Monday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Here's your 710 5-day forecast. For most of the week, it's going to be warm and it's going to be hazy. Temperatures today, mid-80s, isolated afternoon and evening thunderstorms, but not many. Lows tonight, low 60s. Hazy sunshine and hot, likely dry. Low 90s Tuesday, low to mid-90s Wednesday, mid to upper 90s Thursday, Friday, and Saturday thunderstorms return. Weather sponsored by Branch Planning. Some income annuities are paying 25 to 45% more than last year. Get a free retirement review by calling Branch Planning today at 720-651-9800. Find out more at branchplanning.com. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, joining the Jeff and Bill show is Steve Peck. He's the chairman of the Douglas County Republican Party. And oh boy, does he have a letter for Dave Williams. You know, there's a lot of debate happening within the Colorado Republican Party. He wrote this letter just the other day. Dear Central Committee members, you all are aware by now that there's a battle brewing between the state party leadership and members of the Central Committee who have called for a meeting to remove the chairman. Many of you may remember that I supported Dave Williams immediately after he announced his intention to run for chair and endorsed him at the organizational meeting where he was elected. Since then, my optimism has faded to concern and now to full opposition. I serve as the chairman of the Douglas County Republicans, which has given me a front row seat to witness the growing problems I lay out to you here. He lays out the ideas around ethics, strategy, and judgment. When members of the SEC called for a meeting to vote on removal, Mr. Williams hid behind party officers to dodge the meeting and marshaled procedural gimmicks to avoid accountability. When that didn't work, he sued them. This is defensive, divisive, and dysfunctional. We need to change. He joins with Todd Watkins and Nancy Pelosi to call for a meeting next Saturday, July 27th, to vote for removal. Joining us on the Jeff and Bill Show, Stephen Peck. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Yeah, good morning.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on.
So you were a Dave Williams supporter. What happened? Give us your insight.
What did happen? Yeah, well, I won my own race here at the county level here in Douglas County about 18 months ago. And I was encouraged by some of my supporters to support Dave because I knew he was in the state legislature, that he was a part of the right wing of the Republican Party, a conservative-based guy, somebody that I probably share a lot in common with. And so I went out there. I was happy to endorse him. He asked me to endorse him at his election day last year. And unfortunately, and I didn't come to this conclusion quickly or happily, but there have been a series of missteps that have what are laid out in that letter. And I know that you didn't get spelled all out, but I mean, many of your listeners will be familiar with some of these things because this isn't new. And my hope was that this would pass over, that this would just be an isolated event here or there. I didn't want the news cycle to continue to be bad news for Republicans. And I personally cannot stand it when Republicans attack other Republicans. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And it's gotten to the point where that the fighting is not just continuing, it's actually getting worse. And I'm not on board with that at all. If we want to follow Trump's example, we need to be a big tent party, especially in a state like Colorado. And for those that watched the convention, there were several things that really jumped out. I mean, you had Franklin Graham on the same stage as Kid Rock, as Amber Rose, as Dana White, as Hulk Hogan. We had Gold Star moms up there, Moms for Liberty there. We had JD Vance's mom there at one point. I mean, these are not all the same looking people. And in our party, it's gotten to the point where it's like, well, if you don't agree with absolutely everything that we say, then you're going to be given this label and ostracized and alienated. And it's just drawing tighter and tighter ideological circles. It's very corrosive. It's not a winning strategy, as if I can spell out. And I want off that train. This is ridiculous. And there is a way to win, but it doesn't include sniping other Republicans at every opportunity. So I have my opinions. I'm a pretty right-wing guy. I like Mike Lee. I like Josh Hawley. I like Ted Cruz. I like Rand Paul. I like these guys. I like Thomas Massey. These are pretty right-wing people. But I don't like the inter-party fighting and the purity test. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
So, Steve, help me understand then how this isn't contributing to further division.
Yeah, that's a fair point, and some will say that. I think, I've been thinking about this for weeks now. On the one hand, you could say, well, you're in a leadership position as chairman of the Douglas County Republicans. If you think there's a problem and you don't say anything, are you not complicit in what's going on? That would be true.
And have you talked directly to Dave? Have you given him a call or had any of these conversations before?
I have had a series of text messages yesterday. They came immediately after the letter went out. I did not give him a heads up. No. He had some choice things to say. I encouraged him. I said, for the good of our party and our movement, do the honorable thing and resign. He basically told me to pound sand and that I should resign.
Wow. So, I've always found myself in this particular issue in a tough spot because I served the state party.
Yeah.
I served the state party at one point under Ryan Call. And I remember when there was a movement to get Ryan out because he wasn't conservative enough. And I remember just sitting during that whole time going, can't we just go win elections and stop fighting and get Democrats out? And then I've watched Dave go into leadership. I don't have a dog in this fight, but I don't like the division taking place. Do you think that we can recover from this? Do you think that we can come back together, or are we going to just continue to spiral down, down, down until there's about 4 people left in the Republican Party in Colorado?
Well, yeah, that's a great question and a reasonable one. You talk about, the Ryan Call days and can't we all get along? I am a Republican and I got involved in the party to fight the left in this state. That's my motivating, that's my animating reason to be in the party. What I found in coming in, moving from a precinct person to second vice chair was, oh, well, there's another debate happening. And that is, there are a percentage of people, a very small but vocal and animated group, that also want to wage war against other Republicans for sins of the past, or a lot of times they're just personal slights. That does not get me fired up. I'm not interested in those things. I've never been interested in those things. I want to beat the left. I've always wanted to beat the left. And so at my, I know you don't attend our XCOM meetings, but for our district captains in Douglas County, for months, I've been saying, look, we're like two mountain sheep on the side of one of these mountains, locked in battle here in this room and across the state. And the left is like a mountain lion, and they're going to eat us both if we don't find a way to work together. And I'm not interested in winning among a group of 200 or 300 people. It's just not that interesting. It's a hollow victory. You could see that played out in the school board race, which, is a large topic. But basically, we couldn't get the two sides to work together. If we could, we would have won. But it was, again, about a dozen strong opinionated people that drove a wedge between those on the right. And as far as purity test goes, look, I wish everybody agreed, saw the world the way you and I do, Jeff. It'd be a great place, I think, by the way. But the problem is, we live in Colorado. And if Abe Lincoln were to come back from the dead today, he would lose if he ran for U.S. Senate in Colorado. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. If people don't see that.
Who would you like to see as chairman of the Colorado Republican Party? Because that's part of the question I've asked, like Nancy as well. Is there a plan to elevate somebody at this point, or is the plan just Dave Williams has got to go?
Well, that's the first part of it. I have been asked by several people to consider running for it. I have not decided. I'm kind of gauging whether or not there's support, because obviously people to my right are upset with me because I'm saying that Dave doesn't make sense for this party, because we have a losing strategy. The next chairman, whoever it is, needs to be somebody that is committed to uniting the party and ending the war against other Republicans. The Rhino Watch, I think the intention there is, let's hold each other accountable. You ran for office. You said you were going to do these things. You didn't do these things. And now we're going to publicly out you, which is fine. I think that's probably, what we all want. We want politicians to do what they say they're going to do. What it's turned into is a destructive bludgeon that we beat other Republicans over the head with. I actually expect that I'll be on the Rhino Watch next month, or maybe September. We'll see. I don't know when it releases. But that's not helpful. It's not helpful. And if you think about like a big tent, and what, I had one person, a friend of mine, say, Steve, what are we uniting behind? Are we uniting behind a principle, or are we uniting behind a letter? If it was just uniting behind a letter, that's a hollow victory. Here's the thing. Sometimes you do unite behind a letter. And this is where the Democrats are very good and we are terrible. And let me give you a very specific example. Some of you will remember in 2015, Justice Scalia passed away, and it created an opening immediately before the 2016 election. And Mitch McConnell was Senate Majority Leader, and he said, no hearings, no votes, no hearings, no votes, no hearings, no votes. And he stood strong. And I'll tell you, nobody got more booths at the RNC convention than Mitch McConnell. And people forget about some of the good things he did. Okay, if it weren't for people like Susan Collins, who gave us, a weak Republican from Maine to give us the Senate majority, we don't hold the judiciary. If we don't hold the Judiciary Committee, we don't get to nominate. We don't get to confirm Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and all of the future is rewritten. So yes, sometimes you unite behind the letter, absolutely, and I'm begging Republicans to look at each race. Is this race? Take CD 8 in Congressional District 8 on the north side. Gabe Evans is our candidate there. Okay, it's a pure toss-up race. We don't know what's going to happen there, but we do know that it's not going to be the same type of candidate that Lauren Boebert can be in CD4 or Thomas Massey can be in Kentucky. It just can't be the same type of Republican. So there are some Republicans who said, well, it's better to lose that than to have a squish in there. And I think that's insane. And that's what I'm categorically rejecting.
So we're talking with Steve Peck. He's the chairman of the Douglas County Republican Party. He sent a letter asking for the removal of Dave Williams, chairman. The coalition seems, chairman of the Colorado Republican Party, seems like the coalition's growing. You got Todd Watkins, Nancy Pelosi, other county chairs jumping in on this.
Jeff, actually, you said something earlier that I want to just jog my memory. You said, aren't you contributing to the division? And I was not a signatory. I was not a signatory to the initial call. There was a call to add your name to remove Dave. And I think you had to have 25% of the state central committee, which is a group of 400 people. I did not sign that. I didn't sign it. And when the atrocious email came out a couple of weeks ago, I stayed quiet. I didn't bring it up at XCOM. I did, vet to several close friends, but I mean, it was beyond bad for a lot of reasons. And I said, if we talk about it, it's just going to continue in the news cycle will extend and extend and extend. It's like you're getting hit by a car, but you're not quite dead. And it's just gotten to the point. This meeting's happening on the 27th. I know that he and his officers are saying it's not going to happen.
I think he's even suing to try to stop it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding too. Right. So yeah, how's that for leadership? Rather than, if this was a person that was confident in their position, they would say, let's hold the meeting. And if I'm not the right guy, that's okay. Let's find the right guy for the good of the party. Instead, he's worn the party like a skin for his congressional race. And it makes me nauseous. It actually makes me sick.
Steve Peck, chairman of the Douglas County Republicans, joining Jeff and Bill live. I want to talk to you in a little bit of a sports analogy. Jeff and I have discussed this on the show, and the idea of when you're coming towards the playoffs, the election cycle this fall, is it the right time or the wrong time to change the coach? Yep. We've seen that happen both NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA. So going through that idea of Dave Williams being the head coach of the Colorado GOP, is now the right time to change the coach as we roll into the playoffs, or should he be allowed to see what his playoff record is at the end, and then we judge him based on that performance? What are your thoughts?
Excellent question. I had the same question, and I talked to a couple of people before arriving at my own conclusion about this, because I had the same thought. I was like, well, that's terrible timing, and it is. I didn't pick this timing. I was not a signatory to this meeting, but the meeting's happening. So I think, to extend the analogy, the state party, led by Dave, got behind 18 different candidates. Of those, 4 won. So if a head coach had a 22% win margin, would that coach keep his job?
Oh, so you're talking about the idea of you're going to make the head coaching change not because we're headed to the playoffs, but because we're headed to a 0-win season. That makes sense.
No. Well, I'm in it. It's a two-part answer. One, he has an atrocious record to point to. 4 out of 18 victories. It's embarrassing. And one of those was Lauren Boebert, who's going to win regardless of the endorsement, if you wanted to get into the details. Second, and maybe more importantly, I've had a chance to talk to our congressional nominee in CD8, Gabe Evans, who is he's a former state representative here. He's a former soldier, former law enforcement officer. And he, as of 3 days ago, and I'm sure nothing's changed, has not had any communication from state party. So this idea by switching the team and the coach now, we're put at a strategic disadvantage. There is no advantage. I've had one person say nobody in the seat at this point would be better because at least it wouldn't be destructive, which I'm not in a position to weigh in. I don't know if that's actually true. That was one person's opinion. But if the congressional delegation's not even receiving calls, there's zero coordination happening. And I think I'm free to share this part. I've been told secondhand that NRCC or NRC isn't even working with their state party. They're talking about working through another state party apparatus because ours is so dysfunctional.
Ouch.
So what are we losing exactly? is what I came to realize. Nothing.
That's a good point. That's almost like when the Broncos had Wade Phillips at the tail end of his second head coaching career. The idea being, well, what else can go badly? Can we lose more? I mean, basically, that's the fun. That's the idea of the Monforts. The Monforts are like, well, we're already going to lose 100 games. How much worse can it be?
Well, yeah. On a more optimistic note, we have we've got great candidates at the local level, and we've got great people at the top of the ticket in Donald Trump. There's a lot of enthusiasm, and bring on Kamala Harris. I don't think she'll be ultimately the person that we run against, but the difference between Donald Trump and whoever the Democrats pick is Trump is not just the president or the leader of our party. He is the leader of a movement. It's bigger than Trump himself. And so we're going to have some good tailwinds, I think. And there have been some polling to some people like, oh, Colorado's in play. I mean, I would be shocked to see that. What we need to focus on is winning CD8 and CD3, where Jeff Hurd and Gabe Evans. And at the state level, we need to win a couple seats in the state. So this is another example. There is a Senate Majority Fund, and they're trying to raise money. They do it here in Colorado, but they also take it, go outside the state. And I've had some people say, well, we don't want to help them because they're part of establishment interest. I mean, it's a loser script. And I don't like it.
Steve, I wrote about this months and months ago. It is the reflection of a losing culture, right? It happens with the Broncos. It happens with the Rockies. You start blaming the water boys for the problems that we're facing. What I told Dave when he got the nomination at the beginning of his career was really simple. Just start winning. It doesn't matter if it's big or little. Just start winning. Win city council, win mayor races, win school boards, because winning is ultimately America's religion. It is what we all are pulled towards. And so when you start winning, you recruit people, you attract people, you attract donors, because most of the donor class in the Republican Party are business people, and they see their gifts as investments. So they're not going to give to losing candidates, because that's $3,000 out the door that you just burned and lit on fire. It doesn't matter. So they want to invest in winning candidates, and that attracts other donors, other investors, and you snowball it that way. So at the end of the day, the Republicans just need to get into the business of winning. I don't think it's going to be statewide, and that does matter. But at this point, get to the small races, start winning there. And Billy and I talk about this all the time. The greatest example in Colorado right now of conservative leadership, in my opinion, is the city of Aurora.
Yes.
It is Mike Kaufman and its conservatives on the city council that took a liberal city, a progressive city that was, kind of a dump. Nobody really was like, oh, Aurora is a great place.
Hey, I live here.
I would say Aurora now is great, and it's getting a lot better. And the leadership at the mayor's level and at the city council has changed that city to where I would rather live in Aurora than most progressive cities surrounding, including Denver.
And don't forget Jurinsky's bet against Mayor Mike Johnston about who was going to do a better job with illegal immigration. That has been proven out that Aurora did take the smarter path. Absolutely.
So what Republicans can do all across the state of Colorado is point over to Aurora and go, see what we did?
Yeah.
See how it's getting better?
Well,
that's what we are doing, and that's what we can do in Jefferson County. That's what we can do in Lakewood. And you just go city by city doing that. Then maybe someday we'll get statewide races back. But that's how I think you start to turn the Republican Party around.
Absolutely. If I were Dave, or if I were chair, and this might not be the most inspiring message, but it's the truth. Okay. Whoever the chair is should focus. It needs to be realistic with everybody. Okay. We're not competitive for governor or U.S. Senate. So unless some very wealthy guy comes along, or gal, and absolutely just dazzles us, we're not winning governor. We're just not. I hate to break it to you guys. It's not going to happen. So what should the party do? The party should focus on 6 to 8 counties where we could build out a beachhead, show that our policies work, have a functional school board, a functional city council, mayor, and start to build out the bench. And then maybe 3 or 4 cycles, we could make the case and say, look at what these people have done and elevate them to statewide office. But right now, people are thinking like you said, I say winning solves a lot of problems.
Yep, I agree.
Success has many fathers. Failure dies an orphan. And right now we've got a loser script in the locker room, and some people like seem to enjoy like, well, we lost, but we were right on the issues.
So we're talking with Steve Peck. He's the chairman of the Douglas County Republicans. He sent a letter calling for the removal of Dave Williams, the chairman of the Colorado Republican Party. All right, Steve. So next Saturday, July 27th, that's this Saturday, actually, 9 a.m. in Brighton. You're going for the vote. Let's talk through scenarios. If it doesn't work, do you have a mandate to try to repair things with Dave Williams and win in November?
Who?
Do you, as the chairman of the Douglas County Republican Party, if the vote does not go your way, Dave Williams stays in power, do you have a mandate to try to work with him to get some victories?
I don't know that I would agree with that, unfortunately. If he survives the vote, I think it will be bad for the party because he'll grow stronger, and so it won't just be him. He's the leader. So this idea of purifying the party, of calling out people that are heretics, of the circular firing squad, that will continue. And then the 27th will be a date that will live on as like, hey, see, you mess around and find out. And so that would be a disaster. I think that he will.
Well, the reason I bring that up is we discussed on this, and I want to welcome in our new listener, Kyle Clark, who will definitely probably clip me on this because he did last time. But I brought up the point that if you go for the king, you can't miss. Right. It has got to be all the way, and it's got to be done, because the result afterwards is kind of a whole bunch of chaos. So my point being, on Saturday, you guys have got to go all the way. But what if you don't? Are you guys ready to deal with that consequence?
Yeah. So I didn't start this fire. I did not call for his resignation. I was not a signatory to the plan. When the plan was in place, I felt duty bound to come forward and say, I agree. This meeting is happening, and he needs to resign. I think that would be the best thing for the party. If he was interested in the party's best interest, he would see, look, it looks like there is a sizable part of the party that thinks that I'm not equipped for the job. And I don't wish any ill will towards Dave. I mean, I think I think he means well, but it's not working. And I think the honorable thing to do would be to step down. I certainly would if I were in that position. And I'll go a step further. If the Douglas County Republican Party comes and says, whoa, our chairman's gone rogue and he's calling for accountability, and actually we're going to hold him accountable, I will resign from my position. Okay. I think I'm doing the right thing here, though. I really do. I think I'm doing the right thing by calling for his resignation. We need new leadership. I don't know who that's going to be. So the first vote will be if there's enough support for it. He's saying it's not even a legitimate meeting. I'm sure this is going to be adjudicated by the RNC at some point, is my guess.
Wow. Stephen Peck, chairman of the Douglas County Republican Party. I really appreciate you taking time to be on. I hope the chairman of the Colorado Republican Party, Dave Williams, will join us. We have not spoken with him since prior to the primary, but he always has an open phone line. We'd love for him to respond to this. We just want to be the place where Denver's news and talk takes place. So, Chairman Peck, thank you for taking time representing Douglas County and giving us your insight on this important issue. And I'd like to talk with you, if you can, the Monday afterwards. So that'd be the 29th, a week from today, after the vote. If you don't mind, we'd love to have you back on the show to explain what happened.
Sure. Well, Jeff, I'll do that. I appreciate the opportunity to come on here. I'm sure that Dave, like he said in his text to me, he'll say that I'm a con man. Best of luck to him. Best of luck.
All the
you. Have a good
drama
day. We'll talk
right
to you
here
soon.
on 710 KNUS. All right. Want to talk to you all about my friends at Advanced Hair Restoration. Look, the Jeff and Bill Show is the top-rated talk radio show by Westward. Advanced Hair is the top hair restoration company by Westward as well. And everyone always asks, what makes Advanced Hair Restoration different? Allow me to share with you a few ways, and then let me definitely tell you about their once-a-year summer savings event. First off, Advanced Hair stands by their results. Their before and afters are second to none. With Advanced Hair, your own natural hair is guaranteed to grow. Secondly, Advanced Hair combines top-rated physicians with modern technology, creating a concierge quality experience that's hard to find elsewhere. Lastly, Advanced Hair's Advanced FUE begins regrowing your own natural hair the very next day. It's quick, it's simple, and it's easy. Now, if you have a flexible schedule this summer and you've been waiting for that special savings opportunity, it's here. Advanced Hair's summer savings event will get you the most hair for your dollar. It's their best offer ever. For details and to schedule your free consultation, call 720-459-HAIR. One-day treatment, life-changing results. Your new hair is guaranteed to grow. Before and afters at advancedhair.com. That's 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. All right, we'll go back to the phone lines. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in the UK, I'm John Beaver, and here are the top stories we're following. Joe Biden has announced he's dropping out of the 2024 presidential race and has endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris instead. In response to President Biden's decision, Donald Trump posted on Truth Social that Mr. Biden was not fit to run for president and is certainly not fit to serve and never was. The Trump campaign is expected to continue its focus on immigration and the cost of living. Political commentators expect Mr. Trump to try and tie his likely election rival Kamala Harris to those policies, which he says are a source of discontent among voters. The president took the decision whilst recovering from COVID at his beach house in Delaware. From there, Nick Harper reports.
A momentous bombshell announcement coming from here, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, with Joe Biden confirming he is stepping down and will not seek re-election. Some of his staff say they were blindsided, only being told about a minute before that statement was released to the world. And huge questions about what happens next and the path forward for the Democratic Party. And questions as to whether Joe Biden's insistence to stay in the race in recent weeks has done damage to the party, which will hurt it in November's election.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm John Beaver in the UK on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go back to the phone lines. It's been a wild day. Kamala Harris ascending to the top of the Democrat ticket as Joe Biden is taking a step back. Yesterday was a little Kamala inspiration for you.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know? What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been. What can.
The RNC has over 4 minutes of her.
Yeah.
That's her catchphrase.
Yes, it is. We all need one. I wish I had a better one. Mine is, it's not my fault. Not a very good one.
Let's go to Francis and Golden. Francis, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
What's up, you goat ropers?
Not much, man. How are you?
Hey, Jeff may actually be a goat roper.
Francis, I got a story about that real quick. I am literally all hat, no cattle. I'm the walking definition of it because I don't have any cattle, but I love to wear cowboy hats. But I said one day, well, I'm not a cowboy, but I am a goat boy. And my friends who served in Afghanistan are like, Jeff, don't ever say that again.
Yeah, never.
It's a different thing over there. Yeah. Believe me, very different thing over there.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead, Francis.
Yeah, that can get you in trouble. So I think that the Republicans have to really kind of mind their P's and Q's here and keep themselves in check and not get too full of themselves, because I do think that look, I mean, I hearken back to the last election. Trump lost to an empty suit, that the suit got more and more moth-eaten over time.
That's right.
And Kamala doesn't have any substance. It doesn't seem to me at all. But that just puts her into the unmoth-eaten empty suit category, which is what defeated Trump last time. So
Francis, to your point, Vivek said this earlier, that we are not up against Kamala. We are up against the Democrat machine. She's just the next one. And to your point, perfectly, they got Joe Biden across the finish line. The guy campaigned from his basement. For the last 4 years, he could hardly string a sentence together. Somebody else is running his administration. Somebody else ran his campaign. And I guarantee you, somebody else is running Kamala Harris's campaign right now.
And, and on that point, Jeff, that you're making, I think he's very smart on this one, Francis, if you agree. The one thing we were hearing about 6 months ago was that the Biden campaign had better mechanisms in place. They were getting the boots on the ground, per se, and I use that in air quotes, in the states where Trump at the time wasn't rolling out that type of a on-the-ground party mechanism. And if that holds true, if that mechanism is as strong as the Democrats were claiming it was, and all they do is they just shift the name on the banner from Joe Biden to Kamala Harris, it could actually be a real formidable problem for the Republicans. Again, if the machinery is strong as they say it is.
I think it's and once again, this all falls into the lap of a very flawed candidate in Donald Trump. And so he's the one who can mess things up. And, I think that I don't think anybody should get ahead of themselves on this and think that Kamala's just going to be a kickover. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
Francis, you're exactly right.
Yeah,
I appreciate the call
man.
from
Thanks.
Golden. And he's right in cautioning Republicans from just kind of dismissing her.
Yeah, can I give you a caution? Here's the thing that I was thinking this weekend when I was hearing some of the triumphant early ball spiking this weekend from some conservatives is the Trump campaign getting Hillary Clinton this thing? Are they going to think they won before they won? Or are they going to do it?
They're all going to cry because the glass ceiling wasn't broken.
Who gets to throw the cake against the TV screen like Hillary did? That's what I want to know, because I'll do that. I want to do that one.
Let's go to Ralph in Colorado Springs. Ralph, we're going to get to you in just a second. Want to talk to you all about my friends Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for well over a decade. Dan is pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. He's with us on the values, supports this radio station. But that is important because Who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. So you don't want one of them kind of gutter lawyers, right? You want one of the good ones that stands with our values. He's the son of a police officer, a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But he's also a titan in the courtroom. He's believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Kaplan's Law is so trusted, he's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplan's Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call at 303-770-5551 or hit dankaplanslaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P lislaw.com. Let's go to Ralph real quick. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. What a show this morning. Tremendous. 3 quick points. 1, I'm a rhino. I've left the party, but I would like to get my horns back inside the tent. Now in Colorado, there's only an ever-shrinking pump tent. Frankly, I'm judging whether to vote for Trump on the team that Trump puts on the field. And I'm looking at that team here in Colorado. I'll just leave it there. Second point, the only person who can guarantee the reelection of Donald Trump is still Joe Biden. Remember, you didn't, but remember in 1964, when President Johnson announced that he wouldn't run for reelection, Vice President took over. He became the candidate, and then LBJ sabotaged Vice President Humphrey. So I'll put it this way. I think Joe Biden still is the elephant in the room. Now, the third point is simply, how shall I say? Biden is going to stay in the White House until the end of his term. And the reason for that, I'm pretty sure, is Section 2 of the 25th Amendment. Now, the reason is that it says if the vice president becomes president, leaving a vacancy, then Harris can nominate a vice president, but can only take office, that vice president, on confirmation by a majority vote of both houses of Congress.
That's a great point.
So
that's a great point.
What that means is Mike Johnson stops being 2 heartbeats away from the White House and becomes 1 heartbeat away from the White House.
Ralph, great point. We're just out of time.
Then you impeach Kamala and get Johnson as the president.
You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. That was so smart.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. It's been an absolutely fire show with phone lines full the entire time. Sorry we couldn't get to everybody, but if you missed the conversation, go to 710knus.com. Cal Thomas is up next, followed by Charlie Kirk. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Enjoy your Monday.